Hey everyone, just wanted to give you a few quick notes at the top of the show here. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about story spoilers for the first 2 hours or so of Death Stranding, but not really anything else that any other game podcast hasn't been talking about. So it's really just like setup for the story, not like spoilers. So you shouldn't be too worried about it. We're also going to talk generally about the show Evangelion and the movie The End of Evangelion and the Dark Tower series, but not really any specific story spoilers, just kind of like general stuff. If you're in the middle of either of those two things and you're really gun-shy about even learning about the vibe or reaction to the ends of those things. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the video version is going to have some background gameplay video that's going to be gameplay from the first 2 or 3 hours of Death Stranding, Jedi Fallen Order, and my Pokemon Shield Nuzlocke run, which is a Pokemon with permadeath. I think everyone knows what a Nuzlocke is at this point. Again, really nothing you should be too concerned about, but you can minimize the window if you want. Really, the reason I wanted to give this note up front is we talk a bit about Evangelion, which I just watched for the first time. And in listening back to the conversation, I didn't give all my thoughts because it's going to be for my podcast Dabble. We're really going to go in depth and talk about the whole thing for a couple hours. In listening back, I realized I ended up sounding way more positive about Evangelion than I really meant to. So I just wanted to jump in up front and say, there are many, many problems with Evangelion. There's a lot of stuff to not like about it, especially and specifically the movie, The End of Evangelion. There's a lot of stuff around the sexualization of teenagers, just a lot of awful sexual stuff you could categorize as sexual violence. And Evangelion, kind of as a whole, is sort of a work that, in a lot of ways, hates women and especially female sexuality. And it has very little, if anything, meaningful or substantive to say about that stuff, or really anything at all. I kind of, when we talked about Evangelion, I kind of used words like beautiful and interesting, but I more meant the art. And what's interesting about it is the metatextual discussion around the creator and the fandom and how weird that fucking movie is in the context of the show and all of that stuff. And I also talked about the so-called fuck you theory around the end of Evangelion, which I think I sort of accidentally presented as sort of factual more than what it really is, which is just a fan theory. And honestly, it's one that the longer I sit with that movie and the more I learn about the creator Hideaki Anno, the less compelling I find that theory. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear about that stuff up front. But other than that, we got a good podcast for you, great podcast for you. We had fun doing it. Hope you enjoy listening to it. It's an extra long boy for you. Here, have this long boy.
Hello and welcome to the Run Button Podcast. Welcome back. Does it feel good?
Does it?
Does it feel good to be doing podcast again?
Normally, yeah.
Today, no?
Today's a little rough, and I did the thing I always do every time I come here.
Can I guess what that is?
Go ahead.
Is it tell me you're going to be here at 1?
Well, no. I mean, I do always do that. Okay. I'm literally at least an hour late every time I come here.
Yeah.
No, the thing I always do is stop and get lunch at the McDonald's that I have to drive past on the highway on the way here, and then I get here and I feel like shit because I ate McDonald's before I came here.
Yeah. You don't want to do a podcast on McDonald's.
You don't want to do a podcast on McDonald's. I literally, I was going to say there was an episode of Complex Rockets, but there wasn't. The episode was going to be, hey, Andy, we can record this podcast in my bedroom, but I'm hungry and I'm tired, so I'm going to be lying down on my bed eating McDonald's while we do this podcast. We got like 30 seconds in and just went, oh, never mind. This is not going to work. Complex Rockets was a learning process.
It was very early on in the podcast world.
And this is, we're coming up. We're like a week away from the 10-year anniversary of Complex Rockets, our old podcast that we did.
What's the date of the anniversary?
So, like I said before, I remember specifically that...
All right. You remember specifically?
I will never get past the mental block of feeling personally affronted by your sneezes and nose blows, like as if you're doing it on purpose to spite me.
No.
It feels like an aggressive act.
I think it's this cat that's doing it on purpose to spite me.
Okay, well, now I'm on board with it. I remember specifically after we did the first recording, I played Left 4 Dead 2 at Andy's house because I had just bought it I had bought it earlier in the day before I went to his house because it came out that day. I'm pretty sure it came out that day, so I looked it up and the date was November 17th. Or I think it was, like, it came out November 12th, which was like the Tuesday back when games still only came out on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And then, like, it was like that Friday or something. Or maybe it was a Tuesday. Why am I assuming it was a Friday? What a weird thing.
It would have been a Tuesday.
Maybe I'm just going by, like, most games come out on Fridays now. But no.
All games came out, like, everything came out on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
It's only within, like, the last 18 months where things are out consistently on Fridays.
Consistently, yes. I think, but we've been moving away from that for a while. The big games were
breaking with the Tuesday thing for a while, but now just like, it's Fridays.
Yeah, now it's like every game is on Friday.
Yeah. Which is dumb.
It's dumb?
I think so.
You know what I think is really dumb?
What?
Having a big, huge new game that you're really excited for come out on a fucking Tuesday and not being able to play it because you have to go to work or school the next morning.
It's out on Tuesday. It's out on Tuesday. Everything's on a Tuesday. Now everything's on a Friday. Why be tied down to when other games are coming out? Put your game out whenever you want. Why does it got to be a Tuesday or a Friday?
Well, I don't... Okay, so the Tuesday thing was specifically because that was just, like... What an asshole.
That was just, like...
The Tuesday thing was because that was, like, when... That was when movies and CDs came out because it had to do with, like, shipping schedules. It was like, that's when the media trucks went to all the stores with the new movies and music, and so games got lumped into that. And I think Friday is, like, the same reason movies come out in theaters on Fridays. They can come out whenever they want, but just more people everyone goes out on Fridays. That's when people have money to spend on entertainment. And, I mean, money and time.
Yeah, yeah.
And Nintendo, I think, is finally getting away from their Sunday thing. They're starting to put games out on Fridays. Sunday, like another thing. It's like, yeah, Sunday's Saturday. The weekend. Why? But then, what if you want it on Friday? Get it on your way home from work, and then you got Friday night and Saturday.
I feel like on Friday, like, people have to work on Friday. They get out.
Right.
You know? But then it's nighttime. Game sold out. I don't know.
Yeah, you having a lot of games sell out?
No, because I download them from the internet.
Digital stores. Yeah,
they come from all the numbers that make up a video game come from the cloud now.
You didn't. How far did we get through your intro? I don't feel like we said our names or...
Hi, my name is Keith Carberry from Run Button. With me is Kylie Churchill from Run Button.
I'm from Run Button.
We've been doing.
I'm gonna be from Dabble pretty soon. It's actually coming soon now.
Yeah.
We have episode 1 recorded, and
Oh, you actually did it.
and edited. Yeah,
Nice.
It's that we have to do episode 2 before we put out episode 1.
Why?
It was a thing because I was planning like, hey,
Please tell me.
if we get a small audience for this thing, maybe we can, people like it, we could do a Patreon so people could kick us a few dollars or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This was back.
Kicking someone $1 is the rudest way to give someone $1, though.
They could politely digitally transfer their money from their bank account into our bank account.
Yeah.
So we were originally planning to start this podcast like back in May. So this is when we were like basically gearing up to start the podcast. And that was when I got the email from Patreon that was like, by the way, you have a week to start your Patreon before founders pricing ends. And that was when I was like, I guess Davil is going to have a Patreon page from day one.
Yeah. Did you get your...
Yeah.
Okay. And you like... because you have to make it, but then also you have to like have it go live too. Did you do that? Or they'll screw you on.
Whatever we did, we got the thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's, your typical, like, you get each episode, an episode ahead of time. So it'll be like, we'll put out episode 1 for free, and then on episode 1, we'll say, you can go listen to episode 2 right now on the Patreon.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
episode 1, Monster Rancher anime. Episode 2, Evangelion. If anyone's interested.
The whole thing?
Whole thing.
Wow.
Just because we watched the whole thing. Plus, I mean, most of what there is to talk about Evangelion is the end of it. So, I don't know how much you know about that.
I know enough to know that you're right.
Okay.
How did you find it? No spoilers.
So many feelings.
Had you seen it?
I had not, but I knew, I knew the thing.
Okay.
I knew, but yeah, so, really, really liked it despite a few glaring flaws for most of it, and it kind of crescendos like 3/4 of the way through, and then kind of sputters out, and then the ending movie called The End of Evangelion is just like...
And then there is a movie after that, right?
Well, I don't know. There's so much shit. I can't keep track of it. But
The End of Evangelion, the penultimate Evangelion movie.
I don't think there is, or
Okay.
if there is, it was like a years later thing. I don't
Okay.
know. But
I don't know
yeah,
either.
The End of Evangelion is just like the most insane, beautiful wreck of a thing. Here's my take on Evangelion. It's like, for most of it, it's like a sports car cruising down the highway. Then it does a sick wheelie, and you're like, whoa. And then it like chokes and sputters, and then the engine just explodes in like the most like beautiful but also horrifying fireball.
My impression of it, despite I haven't seen it. I considered watching it when it got put on Netflix, and the months leading up to it were everybody that I follow that watches anime, just totally losing their minds. Not in a positive way, not all the time in a negative way either, but like seeing people being like, oh man, this is going to be nuts, having people watch this again.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like, I don't want to have to be part of this, so I didn't watch it. My impression of it is like
such a Keith move. Like, I'm not here to be your science experiment.
pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Because my reaction to that would have been, I didn't see anybody really saying that, but my reaction would have been like, can't wait to have a take on this. Like, I do want to know what I think of this.
Yeah, my impression of it is like, there was a time when anime was often just as cool, but a lot more problematic.
Yeah, but the problems with it's so hard to talk about because it's the 26 episode show called Neon Genesis Evangelion has a really weird, bizarre ending that I believe has a lot to do with them running out of time and money for the show, but also the creator Hideaki Anno taking it in a really weird direction. So it's like the end of Evangelion is really weird and kind of bad, but also the end of Evangelion, the movie titled The End of Evangelion, is also really weird and bad and crazy. There's so much to it. It's like calling it bad is like both not negative enough and also like way too negative. It's such a thing.
Yeah. I know.
But sorry, what I was saying is the problems with Evangelion is not that it's problematic, even though it is. It's just that's not the problem with it.
Right. It's other problems.
The problem is basically just that like
it sucks, but is also crazy.
The Dark Tower. You know, the Dark Tower, it's like it's good the whole time.
Yeah, you're right. The Dark Tower also problematic, but that's not the problem.
But that's not the problem. It's like it's good the whole time, and it's mostly doing. Okay, the Dark Tower. It's good. Books 1 through 4 are good, but they're inconsistent in their tone and their themes. But it's still good enough. It's good enough that you would call it great. If you're in high school, it's great.
It's great.
It's great, even though it's weird and meandering, and it kind of like keeps forgetting what the fucking story is about.
And I maybe would like it less if I didn't read it when I was in. You read it in high school. I read it in grade school. I read it in like 6th grade.
Oh my god! Wow, you're a Dark Tower jerk off from way back.
I am a Dark Tower jerk off from way back. There are no less than 15 old school campaign runners.
I will not explain that. And then you get that endings. It's like the last 3 books of the Dark Tower are not bad. They're just not what the first 4 books were at all. And then specifically the very end of the last book
love it.
Just terrible.
I love it.
It's
I think
so
it's great.
bad. But like I respect your love of it. And I think it actually took me years to be able to say the end of book 7 of the Dark Tower blows. Because I just like that series so much, I didn't want to hate the ending, but I think I just hate that ending. I kind of like it. But
it's great. It's so cool. Well, okay, it's not that it's cool. It's specifically not cool. For anybody looking for something you can draw an equivalency, I don't want to spoil the Dark Tower, obviously.
Please, give an equivalence for our equivalence for Evangelion.
It's the Mass Effect 3 ending is the equivalent.
Wow, yeah. Okay.
Total same thing. And so like, and maybe that's why I always liked the Mass Effect 3 ending more than anybody that I've ever met, except maybe Austin. I think Austin also likes Mass Effect 3 ending. I can't remember how you feel about it. Anyway, but I had it's maybe because I already had the language to from having read The Dark Tower and having it end the way that it did. I already know what that feeling is. The feeling of it's fine. This plays off. The feeling of having something end, but having the idea of a satisfying ending being explicitly denied to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like kind of...
But also, I think a thematically consistent ending. I think that the ending of The Dark Tower is thematically consistent with The Dark Tower as a concept.
I'm not sure that Stephen King's ever thought about what a theme of a thing was.
Stephen King,
I think Dark Tower might be the only time he ever had to think...
This is the most meandering podcast we've ever done. Lean into it.
Okay. I'm leaning in. I think Stephen King talked about how he loves writing, he writes all the time, and specifically it comes really easily to him.
Right.
It just pours out of him.
Is this from On Writing?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It just like it pours out of him, and you can tell that from his output. He retired years ago and never stopped putting out books. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, he puts out maybe 4% fewer books.
And unlike
and started making every movie and TV show that's come out since, or executive producing it at least.
you know, like unlike Tom Clancy, who just at some point was like, "Oh, I can just put my name on other people's books, and it's just my book now."
Yeah.
Like all those books are written by Stephen King. He writes them all. There's actually a bit in On Writing where he's like, one time in an interview, someone asked me how often I write, and I said I write every day except Christmas, my birthday, and the 4th of July, which was a lie, because I wanted to sound like a workaholic, and not a workaholic with a serious problem, because the truth is I actually write every single day, even on Christmas, even on my birthday. But he doesn't plan his stories. He just writes whatever comes to him in the moment. Mm-hmm. Which means they're not thematically consistent, and they don't have poignant endings or plot twists. They kind of just end up feeling like, meh, it was an interesting meh.
Yeah,
but I think
that's what
he's
I've been
talked
saying.
about how. Sorry, real quick before we just like lose this thread totally, is that he's often said about writing The Dark Tower, it was the only thing he ever wrote. The reason there were so many years in between the books is because it was the only thing he ever wrote that felt hard to write. And I think it's because he felt the weight of needing to have a theme and like and an arc to like his story and his characters, and like I don't think that really jives with him at all.
No, well, and then there's also that he had built so many of his other books on the back of The Dark Tower as a series.
Oh yeah, that's true. He still hasn't put out the fucking third Talisman book.
I haven't read those. I haven't read any of those.
Well, it's been years since I read them, but I remember liking the Talisman a whole lot, and then Black House being strange and different, but still pretty good. But specifically, Black House ends with the main character being transported from essentially our world to the Dark Tower world. And it's like, that's literally the end. It's like, boom, I'm in the Dark Tower world now. Weird, the end. And so, like, fans were like, fans were specifically...
If I had read that, I would have lost my mind.
Fans were... One of the biggest things I heard from fans that were mad about Book 7 of The Dark Tower was like, I kept waiting for the main character of the Talisman books to show up, and he never showed up. What the fuck is this?
It's a whole world. Why does that character have to show up in the book?
Well, because at the time, not only was this going to be the final book of The Dark Tower, but Stephen King was also like, by the way, I'm retiring after this book. This is my last book, which ended up being a lie.
Established was the lie.
It was a lie because he doesn't know how to stop writing. But I think that's what they were thinking was like, all of these books are coming together. Because they did do that with Insomnia. Insomnia had stuff about the Dark Tower, and the main character, not the main character, a character from Insomnia does show up at the end of Book 7 of the Dark Tower.
And, a character from Salem's Lot shows up.
A character from Everything's Eventual shows up.
One of the main villains is in like 5 different books. They draw thematic connections between from It and Book 6, I think. There's a character in Book 6 that like explains what it is, kind of.
There was a website called, I think it was just called thedarktower.net. That was a Dark Tower fan site, and they sold merchandise. And one thing that I'm still regretful that I never bought was a Randall Flagg World Tour t-shirt, where on the back, where you would normally have all the locations of the band tour listed, it was just all the different names that Randall Flagg has had.
I know that
funny.
shirt, yeah. So what I was going to say, first of all, I want to preface this by saying that the thing that I've often said about Stephen King is, the way that I used to say it was that, he's not saying a lot except for the words that are written there. But the way that I say it now is that Stephen King is trash, but it's like the best possible trash.
Yeah, like they're good, but you just don't go into it. You should not go into it expecting it to say anything poignant about like the human condition. But it will be an interesting story.
But on the flip side, is so. I don't think that you have to plan out a story to have anything be to have a story that's thematically consistent.
No, but you probably should be able to make it thematically consistent on the fly if you're not going to plan it out. Probably. Unless you're on some next level shit.
I don't think that his stories lack themes. They just are they're written very well, so it's impossible to say that he doesn't have a style. Stephen King has like a very obvious style.
That's the thing is, I think because he just writes what comes to him, after you read a lot of his books, it's like you see like it goes the same way every time.
He has a very strong voice as an author.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people really like Stephen King and why a lot of people really don't like Stephen King, because it doesn't really matter what Stephen King book you're reading.
Great discussion of Evangelion.
It doesn't matter what Stephen King book you're reading. It has such a strong voice that if you don't like that voice, you don't like Stephen King's books at all. It doesn't matter that one of them is a sort of slower, darker, dystopian manhunt, and one of them is about an evil clown, and one of them is like a weird alternate universe gunslinger. Like, it doesn't matter what the book is about. It's not about what the book is about. It's about reading a Stephen King book. That's the thing, that they're not rejecting the subject matter. They're rejecting the voice of the author.
Yeah. I think but the thing that specifically gets to me now about Stephen King books is that he, this was what impressed me about Alan Wake, was that this had that all, like Alan Wake was like, hey, we're making a Stephen King book, a Stephen King game, and it did this at the end, and I was like, that's why some of Stephen King's books aren't great, and Alan Wake is great, is that it's like, whatever the villain or the antagonistic force in a Stephen King novel is, it often devolves at the end to just being some formless primordial darkness that is warded off by something talismanic from the character's past.
Yeah.
And that's why in Alan Wake, it was like literally the darkness, and the way he defeats the darkness is to go into his mind to an apartment he used to live in and get the light switch off the wall, and then go back and uses the light switch to erase the darkness or something like that.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that was the end of that game, but I could have guessed. Hold on, I might sneeze again. It's there. That one was for you.
Thank you. Like holding it in.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say about Stephen King's voice. Nope, I got more. Because he's such a consistent writer and writes with such a specific voice and has a really obvious style, those things all come together to make a theme, and that theme is often like what it is like to be a child,
right? Yeah,
what it is like to live in a small town, what is it like to be afraid and to not have other people believe you, things like that.
Yes. Okay. So maybe a better way to say what I was saying is not that Stephen King's books don't have themes; it's that too many of them have the same themes.
They have the same themes, but as a whole, and especially with like the uniqueness of how the Dark Tower is structured as a book, for anybody who hasn't read, it wasn't relevant until this second. The Dark Tower, the Dark Tower is a series. There's a thing called the Dark Tower, and it ties all of the universes of
in existence. It is
together.
The linchpin of the multiverse,
right? And so that is both a. It's what
both,
the Dark Tower is about.
It's both literal within the story, and it's metatextual within Stephen King's body of work.
Right,
because so many of his books reference, sometimes minor ways, sometimes major ways, of the Dark Tower, in such a way that it's like the Dark Tower universe makes up like half of Stephen King's body of work, basically.
Right, and so those things taken together, the fact that like he's a very consistent writer and often is writing about the same themes kind of over and over again in different contexts. And the fact that he has a series that is metatextual in that way, I think makes a really interesting body of work.
Yeah.
Where that is often greater than the sum of its parts.
Sure, yeah.
And by the way, that JFK book was kind of a banger. I don't know if you ever read that.
I did, yeah.
I thought that was
we
great.
talked about it. It was good.
I
Yeah.
haven't read a Stephen King book since then, and that was years ago. But
That's true. I just I think I read it like 2 years ago, maybe.
I was considering reading the story that The Shining is based on. I can't remember if it was actually called The Shining or not.
Yeah. I was actually just gonna say you should read The Shining. It's really good.
I've never read The Shining, and so I kind of wanted to read The Shining and then read Doctor Sleep and then watch The Shining and then watch Doctor Sleep.
Watch Doctor Sleep?
There's a Doctor Sleep movie coming out. You didn't know about this?
No.
Yeah, it is a big deal. Like I said earlier, every movie that's come out in the last 5 years has been a Stephen King movie somehow. And I'm interested in it because it relies super heavily on the original, the Kubrick Shining,
Right.
which Stephen King famously hates.
Yeah. Well,
so
I see. There's another thing I could talk about for an hour. All I'll say is he famously hated it like 30 years ago or something. Also, I feel like...
So what? It grew on him?
No, I'm just saying people... I don't know. People talk about it like it's happening now.
Right.
And also, I think it's like...
But it is happening now because they're making a Dr. Sleep movie based heavily on that Kubrick thing.
There you go.
That last time he was on the record, as far as I know, he fucking hated.
Dang.
And everybody loves. So he wrote this book. Kubrick makes a movie based on the book. Book? Novella? Isn't it? It's a novella.
It's a book.
It's a book? Okay. And like I don't know the differences between those. And I don't know why he would hate it.
Are we gonna...
Everybody else loves it.
Are we gonna button this and just now we're talking about The Shining? Are we gonna dive even deeper? Or are we just gonna go further down the rabbit hole?
Go with the flow.
No, I'm asking. Are we?
Yeah. This is what we're doing.
Okay.
We're already there.
All right. What I haven't read. I shouldn't act like I'm an expert on what Stephen King thinks about the Shining movie.
Right.
But what I think it was, he had some quote where it was like, he felt like the movie set out to hurt people. Like I think maybe it's like it's maybe more disturbing than I haven't seen the movie. So I need to watch that. But
it's too scary.
I was waiting because I was like, I want to read the book first.
Right. Yeah, same.
Which I was happy about because I really enjoyed the book and I was really glad that I didn't have to go through it comparing it constantly in my head to what happened to the movie in the movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's sort of like the impression I kind of got from what I've heard Stephen King say about the movie. It seemed also, I should say, The Shining was his second book ever. He's written like 40 books now. That was like the second one. It was
he was first, like 20 or 21 when he wrote it or something like that.
I think it was like the first or second thing he had ever made that had been turned into another piece of media. And like within the last 10 or 15 years, I've heard him say stuff like, "Oh, I think like I'm totally in favor of adaptations of my work. I want to see what other people have to say about my story or something."
It's relatively consistent. He's always had. There was a period where that wasn't happening with his work, but only because all the adaptations have been pretty bad.
Yeah, so I guess what I would say is I can totally see. I don't know if this is actually his perspective on The Shining, but I could totally see a creator saying like, "Look, it's not a bad movie. In fact, I think it's a good movie, but it's just not a movie about the story that I wrote." And that's kind of what I wanted. And then, so then famously there was like a TV movie or a TV miniseries that was based on The Shining that was meant to be more faithful to the book that was really bad. And so everyone's like, Stephen King's a fucking idiot because he hates this brilliant Kubrick movie and then he makes his own version that's shit. It's like, there's lots of ways and reasons that a TV show or a movie can be bad without it being that he's, whatever. It doesn't.
Also, shout out to the It miniseries, which was very good.
It was good.
Yeah, that was good.
I
and also very faithful to the book.
I also liked The Stand.
I never saw the Stand thing because I never read the Stand. Couldn't stand it. I read the first 80 pages twice and bowed out both times.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I started reading Dark to Sleep. I didn't get far into it, but all I can remember about Dr. Sleep is problematic, vaguely, mildly problematic racial stuff right at the beginning.
So Stephen King.
So it's Stephen King, yeah.
It's a little racist right at the beginning and then doesn't come up.
It's just kind of amazing because it's like The Shining is so good. The one part of The Shining that isn't good, some problematic racial stuff.
Yeah.
And then the sequel that he made 30 years later or whatever, it's just like getting right back to that. We're not, yep, that's part of The Shining, I guess.
I don't know what this is referencing because I haven't read it.
It's it's not present for the majority of the text of the book, but kind of a pivotal character of The Shining is like the magical black man trope.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has a whole book about one of those.
That's also in the Talisman, by the way.
The Green Mile guy?
No, just that trope is also in the Talisman.
Okay. Green Mile is the probably most racist Stephen King book.
I haven't read it.
I did enjoy the book. I also read it in high school. I was like 15 when I read The Green Mile. But the way that it is racist is it is like solely, it is just that trope, and also that character has like severe learning disabilities. Yeah. Famously portrayed by Michael Clark Duncan. Rest in peace, Michael Clark Duncan?
I don't know.
I think Michael Clark Duncan died.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So Evangelion.
Right. So the ending is Mass Effect 3, which is Dark Tower.
You know how at the end of the Dark Tower, it's...
Let's go back.
So at the end of the Dark Tower, the story is about the main character, Roland, on a quest to get to the Dark Tower because...
To save it.
From
the Crimson King.
The universe is dying because something, the Dark Tower, they want to knock it down or whatever.
The Crimson King hates the multiverse. He hates Stephen King's books. So he wants to...
I'm really interested. Robin so-and-so, who was like his like lore keeper for when he was writing the last 3 books, like because she's like a big Dark Tower fan.
Yeah.
She wrote a book about the first 4 Dark Tower books or something.
Yeah.
She went on to write most or all of the Marvel comic adaptations of the Dark Tower, and I read a little bit of it, and it was like good and also fairly different in some key ways from the original books, and I'm interested to like read those and see if the ending is better, basically. But yeah, like the book 7 has that moment where Roland, spoilers, Roland.
Major spoil. If you are ever thinking,
wait, I'll say this. Well, whoever edits this, just cut out that I. Let's just say, at the end of the book 7, there's kind of an ending, and then it breaks, and there's like there's a part from Stephen King himself who he's basically giving you an out, where he's like, listen, the ending of this book is coming. And if you want to get out now, and whatever you think the end is gonna be, you will keep that in your head and in your heart for the rest of time. This is my opportunity to you to do that.
Yeah.
Or you can keep reading. But of course it's kind of false, because who would ever stop reading at that point?
Yeah.
And then there's an ending that is famously kind of unsatisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like... Evangelion is kind of that, but it's also wrapped up in this thing. Like, the thing kind of everyone knows about Evangelion at this point is it's like the final episodes of Evangelion, the show, come out. They're very abstract. They're very weird. And also, you don't get...
I like abstract and weird.
Yes. And that part of it is not... They're not really bad on their own, but it's like there's all this... There's a lot of plot to Evangelion. Like, there's a whole thing happening.
Right.
And, you know, there's shadowy organizations and, you know, religious / ancient alien, you know, origins of humanity from space kind of shit going on and all of this stuff. And it just gets wiped off the table. And famously, there's like this really, really angry fan reaction to it. And then like the creator, Anno, who is going through a deep depression as he's making this show. What?
Just move your mic a little bit further from here.
The creator, why am I having a hard time saying this? Hideaki Anno. He's going through like a Great Depression during this time. Just an awesome depression during this time.
Super good.
And
was going through a depression at the before, during,
and after, probably. Yeah. And there's this really
goes away for a while when you're making a cool new show. You're depressed. You're not making any shows. Well, a toy company says we'll make a show for you. So you're like, I'll make a cool new show. I'm not feeling as depressed.
Well, the show, the thing also about it is that the show is in part about depression. You know, he said that I guess he wanted to make a show about not running away. And like the main character definitely has depression, hates himself, is not able to connect with other people because he hates himself, so he cannot imagine that someone else would like him. And so that he is self-isolating, all this stuff. And the end of the show dumps all of the plot. I think because they just ran out of money and just had to say, well, we don't have any money to put it in these episodes, but we are going to make this movie afterwards, and that can just be the actual end of the show.
How do you have the money for a movie but not to finish the show?
I mean, I think it's literally like, this is the money we have for the show, and this is the money we have for the movie, right? I don't know.
That was already allocated.
I think so. I mean, I
don't know.
I'm basically making it up.
Okay.
So anyways, the movie, the end of Evangelion, it essentially overwrites the final 2 episodes of the show. It redoes, like literally in the movie, it's like, this is episode 25. But episode 25, it tells you, I'm episode 25, and halfway through the movie it goes, this is the end of episode 25, here's a credit roll, and then it says, now we're doing episode 26 in the movie, and the characters are totally...
Question.
Yes.
Is it meant to override it in a way where if someone were to go and watch Evangelion now, would anyone recommend don't watch the last 2 episodes of the show, just watch the movie instead?
So...
It sounds like no. I've never heard anybody say that.
Well, the thing about it is that, if you're ignoring all of the metatextual stuff about fan reaction and blah, 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 all happening on the outside, I would say, absolutely yes, you could skip the last 2 episodes. But the stuff that's interesting about the end of Evangelion kind of requires you to know about that stuff, because those 2 episodes, they're solely focused on the interiority of the main character, and he kind of has this sort of revelation at the end about his depression, not like my depression is cured now, but sort of like I want to be myself. I'm not going to give up on existence. I'm going to I am going to affirmatively decide that I want to live my life and be myself.
Damn, so it's like the Joker.
Sure, I don't know.
Did you see the Joker movie?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I've just so many takes from so many people about that fucking movie. And so it's kind of like, like I said, it dumps the entire plot. You don't get even a hint of resolution on any of it at all. But you're like, hey, this character made a positive turn. That's nice. And a character that seems kind of like a stand-in for the creator, right? Like, a guy who's going through probably the same kinds of mental issues that the creator is going through. Really negative fan reaction as they're making this movie.
We don't care about that little shit character.
Yeah, exactly. Like, fuck this whiny bitch. But also, they're not...
His dad was right, or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, basically. And here's the thing. there are so many terrible anime fans with the worst possible opinions, and it's like, I can totally see why he would get hung up on the worst opinions, but they're not wrong. The ending of that show sucks ass. It's not good.
Okay.
Other than the part about his, revelation through his, his dealing with his depression. That part is good. Everything else about it sucks. And then this movie, it's like, the characters are totally different. The way many people read that movie as being like a giant fuck you, like where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, did I not give you the big giant robot action that you wanted? Well, here it is, but it's fucking horrific. And like
I've heard that.
The characters are like awful and horrible. The main character specifically, instead of going through a positive change, instead is depicted as worse than he's ever been at the beginning and then even worse at the end. Like, literally, it's almost like saying, oh, this character that I thought was me, oh, I guess it's you then. And if it's you, then I guess this character's a fucking piece of shit. It's like that kind of thing.
That sounds pretty funny.
It's pretty fun. Like, that's the thing. It's so
funny.
Interesting. It's really interesting, but it is not a satisfying conclusion to the story that led up to that movie. But It is interesting, beautifully animated, and like on a technical level, it's beautifully animated, but also just the stuff happening on screen is all this kind of like cosmic psychosexual madness. Like, a lot of it is kind of has like 2001 vibes, not like, but just way weirder and more anime.
The book / movie, the Arthur C. Clarke book, not the year 2001.
Yes,
in real life.
I'm sorry. Yes, Keith, I was talking about the book / movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, not talking about the psychosexual cosmic nonsense that happened at the end of the year 2001.
Right.
Yeah. Damn, I guess we don't have to do that Dabble episode now. No, there's way more.
This was very non-specific.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens when we don't record a podcast often enough.
We just have too much
It just explodes out of us like Stephen
Yep.
King writing his entire body of work. Fun Stephen King fact, Richard Bachman, Stephen King's pseudonym.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's the same guy.
What?
Yeah.
It actually bums me out that they published the Richard Bachman books under the name Stephen King now.
Yeah, it sucks. A lot of the Richard Bachman, I haven't read all of them, but the ones that I've read have been really good. They tend to be slower and maybe a little darker, but less horror. They're not as horror-y, but they are darker.
Yeah.
I really like the Running Man book. That's one of my favorite Stephen King things. But he came up with Richard Bachman because his publisher was like, you have to stop putting out books. We cannot put out as many books as you're writing. And then he was like, I'll make up a fake name.
That's true. He made up Richard Bachman for the same reason that like game publishers on the NES would make up the fake labels like Ultra Games or whatever, because they were only allowed to put out so many games in a year.
It's possible. Maybe we should cut that out and put it as its own thing, or put it at the end of talking about video games.
No.
Neither of those?
No,
you don't think that deserves to be its own podcast?
You said, when we were starting this, I was like, is this what we're doing? And you're like, yeah, this is Run Button. Lean into it. And so we did.
Video games.
Yeah, video games. I mean, they know.
They know.
That's what they're here for.
Yeah. That's why the Run Button podcast is the best video game podcast on the internet.
Because we talk about Ava and Stephen King instead.
For all that we lack in access to developers, access to events, video game codes, press material, we make up for in talking about whatever we want.
No, but seriously though, like, just when you were like, maybe we should cut all that out and put it somewhere else, everyone listening to it was like, what? No. Huh? I mean, I already listened to it, but I'm not here for you to cut that out. That was good.
Video games. You played Darth Stern?
I played Darth Stranding. I played a couple hours of Death Stranding.
That's the newest hottest shit that's coming off of the games.
Funnily, I get that's a word.
Funnily
it's
enough.
a word. Funnily enough. Nah.
Funnily is a word.
No, funnily. Death Stranding is like all the same themes as Evangelion. So like as I'm watching End of Ava last night, I'm like, and I have my rented copy of Death Stranding sitting next to me. It's kind of dawning on me like, oh, Death Stranding's just going to be stupid Ava, isn't it? It's just going to be even stupider Ava.
So how far in are you?
Very early.
Did you? You saw me on a bike. Did you have a bike yet?
I saw the bike in the opening cutscene, but no.
Okay.
I like just got to the part where it like kind of starts letting you play the game by yourself.
You sort of have, because I don't even feel like I'm fully there
Oh,
yet.
sure, yeah.
But you are, yeah. I remember the part where I was like, oh, I think they're finally letting me to play the game by myself now. And then an hour later being like, that's only kind of right. But it's fine. I like the walking around with the stuff on my back.
Love walking around with stuff on my back. That's the shit I'm here for.
I love that.
The kind of shit when you're like, I need to walk. I can't walk down this gentle slope too fast or I might trip on a rock.
Crouch.
That's
crouch.
extremely my shit.
Here's my tip. Crouch. Crouching is...
Hey, I'm the person that put 60 to 80 hours into Miasmata. I'm all about a character that might tumble down a slope and then drown in a 2-foot pond. I'm all about it. The part that sucks so far is all of the characters and everything they say.
So, I'm confused, right? So here's the thing. As far as playing the game goes, the good part of it is having stuff in my bag and trying to figure out how to move around with that stuff. The part that is not good about playing the game, and I'm using the word playing the game loosely, talking to characters and watching cutscenes is also playing the game, but like, the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The BTs,
the game
we
part.
know about BTs.
The game part of the game. Oh, beached things?
Beached things. We know about them.
Uh-huh.
And they're the floating monsters that...
I love most of the fictional trappings of the world.
Yes. Yeah. But
like
I don't actually
BTs
like
and Death Stranding and all.
around.
No, that sucks.
I don't like doing that because I just want to walk. I just want to like walk. I just want to spend 50 hours walking, and I do want to watch the stupid cutscenes that are telling me the dumbass story of the game.
Well, I've only had to do these BT stealth segments like twice at this point, but the problem for me is that I haven't failed yet, but I feel like I don't know how to succeed. Like, I feel like I'm just, like, I just walk, and then a BT shows up next to me, and it's like, oh no, it's not, you know what I mean?
Do you have your baby?
My BB? My bridge baby?
Do you have your bridge baby?
Yeah, my bridge baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, my BB.
Well, the bridge baby tells you where the nearest one is before it shows up.
Well, but then I feel it, but they're also, like, they kind of, like, warp, I think?
I haven't noticed much warping.
Anyways, I think the best stealth games are the games that give you as much information about where you can and can't go and like what you're trying to stay away from, and I feel like so far that's not what I'm getting from this, and it's frustrating, but it hasn't become a problem yet. It just feels like something that will become a problem at some point.
Yeah, right now it sort of feels like there's like you can go wherever you want. Just where you go, there might be a bad guy there, and he will try to drag you into the mud or something. It's hard to tell what exactly will happen. But it's like, but there's like an invisible tunnel, right? Like that is your path snaking through these things. And it's like, you just kind of have to like figure out every step as it comes. But which is in a way similar to the walking mechanic. You kind of have to just like figure out what you're doing as it happens. They are similar in that way, but there's just something about the like crouching and holding your breath and managing your stamina. It's just not fun.
It's just not fun. It's just not fun.
It's just not fun.
It's just not fun.
I like everything else about it, and I'm really curious about the story that they're presenting me. Kojima has a
so real quick, I wanted to say we didn't explain what this game was at all, and I'm always sometimes surprised by how little some of our fans follow video game
it's
stuff.
It's the Norman Reedus takes out his butt and he pees. He has a special pee game. It's the Norman Reedus special pee game.
This is the first game that Hideo Kojima, the creator of Metal Gear Solid, has made after leaving Konami, and now he no longer had
quote unquote.
He doesn't after he was fired from Konami for being a diva, and so he doesn't have his BB anymore. So he had to make a game about BBs.
Full disclosure, he is a fucking diva.
He's a wicked diva. Like, okay, the problems with that company, Konami, are vast and well documented. It sounds like a terrible company, terrible place to work, but also, Hideo Kojima sounds like he's tough to work with.
Yeah. And so I feel like, so here's the thing about the story. Full disclosure, I'm going to spoil the story from the first, 2 hours of this game. Have you played 2 hours of this game?
Yeah.
Have you met your mom?
I have, yes.
Have you met your sister?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I already listened to a bunch of podcasts where people did the same thing.
Oh, okay. Great. So...
my mom and my sister that are played by the same actress?
I didn't notice that. I
looked it up on IMDb.
It says the name. It credits the name.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to decide how I feel about this side tangent. The game keeps crediting songs as they play and crediting voice actors as they show up. But it's interesting. At first I was like, that's interesting. As games actually giving credit to people. Games are traditionally not good about giving credit to voice actors and music, pretty much anything or anybody besides the creative director of the game, pretty much.
Yeah, and actually, to Kojima's credit, his games have always been good about that since they started having voice acting. But mostly, I think, because he's so impressed with the idea that it's like a movie.
Right.
Look at this actor. My game has actors in it.
Here's the thing.
Like a movie.
Kojima is David Cage that actually can make a good video game.
Boom. There you go.
And he can make a way better game, but he's not that much smarter, and they're both interested in the same sorts of things.
Kinda.
Well, they're interested in movies and making games that sort of feel one minute out of every hour feel like a movie. So
actors,
right? The tangent about giving credit. So here's who they're giving credit. They're not giving credit to everybody.
I think I know where this is going.
They're giving credit to the famous.
Right.
To the famous people.
Yeah.
Like, the guy who accepts your packages that isn't designed to look like a famous person doesn't get a credit. And also, the music that was written for the game, the score...
Yeah.
That doesn't get a credit.
Yeah, the composer who worked with Kojima's productions doesn't get a credit.
Just the music that he liked and put in his game gets a credit. And gets a credit for, 2 minutes. The entire time the song is on, the title and the...
Is it? Are you sure?
Yeah. Oh. I don't know for every song, but at least for some of them. Anyway, that was a side thing. I think it's just
Oh, sorry. I thought where this was going was...
No, this is a total tangent. It wasn't going anywhere.
Okay.
Besides that, it's at first I was like, oh, that's cool that he's crediting actors. And I was like, okay, but he's only crediting, capital A actors.
Yeah. Well, I would say he also gives credit for the characters that you would call the main characters of the game, even if they aren't famous actors. The voice of Amelie and Bridget. I think it's just a voice actor.
Laura Wagner. I don't know who that is. So
I don't know.
But I also barely know who Mads Mikkelsen is. I know of him, but I don't know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, but he fame.
Yeah.
He
And I know,
famous.
here's how I know Norman Reedus.
He was
He does
Hannibal.
Norman Reedus does the introduction to the Thrilling Adventure Hour.
I thought you were going to say he has that motorcycle riding show on AMC.
That's also true. I learned that from the bathroom. I didn't know about that show. No, but there's a podcast, a now defunct podcast called The Thrilling Adventure Hour, and Norman Reedus did like the intro credits to the Thrilling Adventure Hour podcast.
Wow, exciting.
Yeah, that's what I know Norman Reedus from.
Oh, you don't, I mean, do you know what he is? Do you know the
I
famous?
know that he's most famously from The Walking Dead.
Okay, I was like,
A show that I basically haven't seen. I saw the first season, but he was barely in the first season. He was in like 2 episodes.
I watched the first 2 episodes. Yeah, back when the show hadn't come out yet, like the episodes that were made before it was put out, so that they didn't know that everyone liked Norman Reedus' character. So his character was just like a racist piece of shit that hated people.
Yeah. And then everyone liked that character, and so they go, we have to bring back this racist piece of shit that everyone likes. But, I mean, at least he's better than his brother, the racister piece of shittier shit.
The piecier of shit.
Anyway, so here's the story. Like, the beats of the story. Like, I haven't heard a lot of the actual story getting talked about, and that's what I want to talk about.
Real quick, before you do that, I just want to stick in that where I thought you were going when you were talking about, like, oh, they're putting, like, the credits of people's names on the screens. What they also do is a thing that this is, like, straight out of Metal Gear Solid 5, is they put Hideo Kojima's name on the screen, like, for 6 different things. Like, I designed this game. I wrote this game.
Yeah.
I everything to this
Actually,
game.
someone else got the writing credit.
Nobody likes Auteur Theory more than Hideo Kojima. No, I saw a thing that just said written by Hideo Kojima.
Oh, maybe... I could be wrong. I think there's something that said story by Hideo Kojima, but I saw someone else. Maybe it was just writer, and it was, but maybe not written by.
Yeah, because I was surprised that I specifically remember it said written by Hideo Kojima, because I was surprised to see that, because he doesn't write these games by himself.
No.
He always has people helping him write them.
A fucking 1,000 people made this game.
Yeah.
1,000 fucking people made this game. Like, so, and he is 2 weeks before this game came out was on Twitter implying that he made this game single-handedly. Because he's a dummy. He's a kind of a dumb... He gets a lot of credit for making games because most games don't bother to have any sort of thought put into them at all.
Yeah.
And so when a game comes out that seems like it's saying something... and there's a lot of those coming out this month. Outer Worlds is another one. Whenever a game seems like it's saying something, it gets a lot of credit.
Did you hear them talk about this on Waypoint
Maybe?
recently?
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
I did listen to the last couple episodes of the Waypoint podcast, but I can't tell what you're referring to.
They were specifically talking about this idea where it's like, so rarely does a game come out where it feels like it has something to say, that it has something to unpack, that it's like about an idea.
Yeah.
That, and this, kind of does go back to like Metal Gear Solid. Is it like there's like a strain through the gaming community that feels like if it has something to say, it has to be good. And, and they're talking about like, I wish more games had something to say so that I could not like some of the ones that do. That I could just say, like, I don't like this. It's saying something, but I don't like the way it says it, and I don't think it's saying anything good.
Right. That's pretty much how I feel about Outer Worlds. We'll get to that later.
We're going to get to that later.
Yeah. So Death Stranding. I want to talk about the fucking story of this nutso game, because I'm trying to figure out what it's trying to say. I'm trying to figure that out. Okay.
Isn't it telling you?
It is telling me...
It's telling you a lot of stuff.
It's telling me... It's telling me certain things about itself, but it's not telling me how it feels about what it's telling me. Yet, at least. There's some things that it is, but, okay, just like, I'm talking about bare bones story details, right? Norman Reedus, he goes to this place to deliver a package, and they go, the president wants to talk to you. And he goes, president? There's a president? What is there to be president of? There is no America. And they're like, well, there is a president, and it's your mom. And, like, that's weird. Let's go talk to my mom,
weird.
president. And she dies. You see her, and 18 seconds later, she's dead. And then they're like, we have to cover this up. No one can know that the president is dead, or the dream of Reconstruction will be gone. And it's like, who knew? Like, how important is this if her own fucking son didn't know that she was the president? Like, there isn't an America to be president of. Nobody else in the entire country has internet. That's what the game is about. So they've got to cover up. They make this big deal about having to cover up her death, and then you go burn her body, and then you come back, and they're like, we decided your sister's president. We appointed your sister as president. And it's like, okay, so they want to rebuild America, and there's this very silly.
Well, I mean, isn't maybe the idea is like, we need to get, your sister is trapped on the West Coast, we need to get her back to the East Coast to assume the presidency before we let anyone know that the president is dead. Like, we need to not have a gap.
But does the game want America to be back together?
I don't know.
Or does it not? Is it criticizing the idea that America should be put back together because they literally appointed a president at their first opportunity?
I can.
Like,
I
how
have
bad
heard,
do you want America back, and how little do you like? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just gonna say I have heard. Like, I've heard, like, a vague allusion to where that might go, if you want me to say it, or if you want to not be spoiled.
I guess I don't want to be spoiled.
Okay.
But then there's the, like, okay, so there's the technology thing, and the technology is handcuffs.
Yes, this is what I was, like, dying to bring up. It's like, that your map and your do-everything magic utility device is handcuffs called cufflinks, but also...
Which they know look like handcuffs, because he finds them on... Norman Reedus finds them on him. He's handcuffed to the table. No one ever explains why that's normal. He wakes up, he's handcuffed to the table, and he's like, no, don't worry, it's just a computer. Put it on. And it's like, okay, if it was just a computer, why did you use it as handcuffs then? And so... But then, the people who are trying to rebuild America want you to use the handcuffs to bring internet to everybody, but it doesn't ever seem like they address, like, so are the handcuffs good because they're rebuilding America, or are they bad because they're handcuffs and they're rebuilding America, which is bad because America's bad? What? How do they feel about what they're showing me?
Yeah, my impression so far is like, and this has kind of always been Kojima's thing, like, what I like about Metal Gear is that the stories are very dense. There's a lot of stuff happening, and like each game up through 4. Yes,
I was just gonna say that the thing that I only really seriously played Phantom Pain. I didn't finish it, but I played a lot of it.
Yeah.
The thing that I liked about it was it did have a sort of nutso frenetic energy to the story and the cutscenes, and this doesn't have the same energy, but it has the same, like, vibe, like this sort of, like, weird, like, slightly surreal vibe.
Yeah, I think it seems maybe like, like he's carrying over whatever Kojima or, Kojima Productions sees as the Kojima vibe. It seems like they're carrying it to a different genre of game, which the game doesn't even seem to know what genre it is, but it's a Strand game. That's another thing. Like, Kojima was on Twitter being like, well, I mean, everyone thinks Strand game they don't know what Strand game means, and that's fine. Maybe that's not the term everyone's going to use, because when I made up stealth, when I made the stealth genre, I called it tactical espionage action, but then the term stealth genre caught on, so I mean, like, who knows what this genre that I've created is going to go on to be called.
What a bizarre piece of PR bullshit, because it's like, there is nothing about this that is a new genre.
Well,
like, even taking him fully at his word, the Strand element of it is just the plot of the game. It's not it's not a genre in the way that we understand genres as in video games, which is like categories of similar mechanics.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a difficult game to categorize mechanically. To me, it's almost like someone showed him Dear Esther and went, people call this a walking simulator. And Kojima went, that's not a walking simulator. I'll make a fucking walking simulator. It is like literally simulating walking.
Right.
Don't put too much weight on the left side of your backpack or you'll trip over that rock.
It's an adventure game. It's an adventure game with physics.
It's not an adventure game.
It is an adventure game.
No, you go on an adventure, but that we all know that's not what adventure game means.
I don't know. What do you think adventure game means?
An adventure game is like a story-based puzzle game.
Is that not what this game is?
No.
Is moving around the rocks not a puzzle? Figuring out where to put ladders not a puzzle?
That's not a puzzle.
That is a puzzle.
No, it's not.
It's a physics puzzle.
It is not
so dissimilar from an adventure game all of a sudden it's a fucking Strand game and we don't know what the fucking genre it is.
This is a wild take because I'm not saying that Death Stranding is very unique in how it works.
Okay.
But it's nothing like an adventure game.
I don't think it's so dissimilar from an adventure. It is the broadest possible genre of game, I feel like.
It
adventure
is.
Games. It's like saying that it's like the music genre alternative.
Uh-huh.
It's like it could be anything. You could make anything as an adventure game, honestly.
So far, well, see, it's fucked up that walking simulator is already a different genre because I would just call this a walking sim. This is like maybe I think it is. It's pretty unique. There's not a lot of other games like this. Like, I heard Alex Navarro compared it to like Euro Truck Simulator, but like mostly on foot. It's kind of like that. It's sort of like an
walking simulator,
like an off-road trucking simulator. It's like
you're walking.
It's like a courier simulator. It's a Strand game.
It's a Strand game. It's not. It is not a Strand game.
That doesn't mean anything.
I would be thrilled to be playing a game and feeling like this was the first of a new type of game. I don't feel like that.
A little new.
I don't feel like that at all.
Boo boo boo.
It's a platformer.
It's closer to a platformer than an adventure game.
I just feel like a platformer is just a more specific kind of adventure game a lot of times.
No.
Yeah. Or platforming is a key feature of many adventure games.
Here's the problem. You're getting caught up on the word adventure. I agree that adventure game is not a good label for the genre of adventure games. Like, it's basically a misnomer. But that doesn't mean it's anything like this game.
Name 5 adventure games.
Myst, Maniac Mansion, Full Throttle.
These are old. Last 5 years. Listen to R&B in 2019 and R&B in 1965. Those are different genres. Like, what? Give me.
Well, I mean, it is. At this point, it exists mostly as a throwback genre because it's kind of outmoded. But I guess a recent adventure game would be. Well, the Zero Escape series is like an adventure game.
I don't know Zero Escape.
It's like a combination like visual novel and like escape room puzzle game. I'm thinking of recent adventure games, but they're all like old adventure game creators going, I'm making an old game again. You know, like Thimbleweed Park, Abduction, Broken Age.
Do you consider adventure and action/adventure to be a different genre?
They're basically totally different.
This is what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
So in action...
I guess I'm talking about action-adventure.
Sure, yeah. An action-adventure to me is like a game that's mostly action. Yeah, I guess I don't really consider it to be very similar at all to adventure game.
It's like to me, that's the same genre.
That's just not how they kind of exist. I mean, we know that video game genres are silly and don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How often are you truly playing a role in a role-playing game? Sometimes, but not always.
Right. It's more like role-playing game.
So, like to me, an action-adventure game would kind of require a literal adventure. I mean, an adventure can take many forms, but it's more
put that on the box.
An actual adventure.
Something else, because Death Stranding has one form.
An actual adventure, to me, is more central to what an action adventure is than to a literal adventure game. As weird as that sounds to say.
Okay, so I guess this is an action adventure game.
Yeah, it's an action adventure game where that's about deliveries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a Strand game.
It's a Strand game.
And yeah, about like the credits on screen, Hideo Kojima is like totally a star fucker. He, the reason he put, and there's tons of celebrities that make cameos in this game, and the reason that they do that is because he wanted to meet a bunch of celebrities. He wanted to take selfies with them and put them on his Twitter page, and he did it.
Yeah.
Like fucking Metal Gear Solid, main character Solid Snake, voice of that character David Hayter, iconic voice, beloved voice. It's like one of the most well-known distinct character voices in like all of video games. People love it to death. Metal Gear Solid 5 just dumps him, gets Kiefer Sutherland for basically no reason. Doesn't sound anything like the character at all. Who knows why? I heard someone speculate like, oh, they did facial capture, and in facial capture, it's like they can only change the look of the face so much, so you kind of need a person that looks a little bit like the character. Not only does it sound wrong, but David Hayter looks more like Solid Snake than Kiefer Sutherland does, so really, Kojima just wanted Kiefer Sutherland in his game.
Although, now that I think about it, Andy Serkis looks a lot like every character he's ever played. If you think about Andy Serkis looks like Gollum. And he also looks like Ape from Enslaved.
Did the Gollum stuff have literal like face capture? Oh, I guess like I don't know if it was with Gollum, but there's definitely been, you see pictures of Andy Serkis on the sets of different movies with like a camera apparatus like strapped to his head. So yeah.
And then if you see videos of him acting, he's always like making the, like I've seen side by sides of like here's his face and here's what they did.
Yeah, not that Kiefer Sutherland was bad in that role. It just was such a bizarre move to make because it just like it upset Metal Gear fans. It upset David Hayter himself.
Yeah.
It was such a weird thing to do.
It probably cost a lot more money.
It cost more money. It restricted how much dialogue they could give to Snake. Snake, a famously talkative character, says basically nothing in Metal Gear Solid 5. Very strange. Anyways, Death Stranding has all these metaphors that it's like piling on top of each other.
Well, that's the other thing that I was going to say. This is a game whose it seems like the as far as I can tell so far, and I'm only like 7 hours in, maybe 8 hours in. The central ethos of the game seems to be different words sometimes mean two things.
God, yeah. Leading up to that game, I was like, I don't know if this will be any good, but like, man, you know what really gets me? I really like the double entendre in the whole strand thing. It's so cool because like a strand is like a small tenuous connection, but also if you are stranded, it means you're disconnected.
Yeah.
You're isolated, you're alone. And then I played the game, and like 30 minutes in, they said, a strand is a small tenuous connection, but also to be stranded. I'm like, you're literally just saying it to me in the first half hour?
But then I can't, I wish I could remember, but there was like two other things that came up where I was like, oh, this is just strand, they're doing strand, like all of the key things in this. And also, the characters, okay, so your name is Sam Porter Bridges. Uh-huh. Sometimes people call you Sam Porter. Sometimes they call you Sam Bridges. But your mom's name is Bridget Strand.
Yes.
But your sister's name is Amelie America Strand. But then he goes, he's like, I'm not Sam Strand anymore. So he used to be Sam Strand. But he's like, I'm Sam Bridges now. And it's like, okay, but I thought you were Sam Porter because someone had called him Sam Porter.
Yeah, it's...
What the fuck is this guy's name?
Yeah, I went through the same thing. I think where I landed was that it seemed like his name was Sam Strand, but that he disconnected himself from his family. He literally cut the strand with his family, and so he changed his name, and I think now it's like he literally changed his name to Porter Bridges because Porter is his profession and Bridges is the company he works for.
But he doesn't always work for Bridges. Because people keep on... They had to, like, trick him into becoming a Bridges employee, and before that, there was 2 different characters who were like, Bridges now entering in a contract with Sam Porter. And it's like, but Fragile already said that I worked for Bridges, so... And
I think the contract, I think, was this, like, the specific, like, go and get your sister contract, right?
Well, no, because the guy that got eaten, the corpse removal guy, he also said Bridges officially entering into contact with Sam Porter. Anyway, so the impression that I'm getting is that people's names are just what job they have. Because there's Dead Man.
I think there's
Heart Man, and there's Hard Man.
This is just the game. This is just the game's vibe. Real quick though, 4 hours ago I said, "Hey, we're gonna do a stream in 2 to 3 hours." We didn't go live. We're supposed to go live so people can listen
To a podcast?
Yeah, to the
you should have said something.
I forgot.
I forgot too.
But I'm remembering now. I was like, as I was like trying to bring this up, like, oh, we should go live. I then just got a text from Phoenix being like, "Are you guys doing a stream? Is the stream still happening?"
Well, when we do that video game, we'll go live.
Oh, let's just go live.
Go live in the middle of a podcast?
You know we're going to go for like 3 more hours. Just go live.
That's so stupid. No, it's going to be so much extra work to... It's going to be 3 minutes extra work to edit this out.
Don't leave it. Just leave it in. Leave it in. Okay, we're back.
So, what were we talking about?
So, Death Stranding has...
I believe I was in the middle of a point, but I can't remember what it was.
We were talking about the character's
There's
name.
people in the chat. We recorded half of this podcast, and then...
You missed a dope-ass chunk about Evangelion and Dark Tower and Stephen King in general. It was so good. Look for the real podcast.
Kylie was trying to make a point about Evangelion, so we talked about Evangelion for 8 minutes and Stephen King for 45 minutes.
And we also touched on Mass Effect.
Right, we touched on Mass Effect. We also just did like 25 minutes on Death Stranding, which we are still in the middle of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We shouldn't have a part of the podcast where we recap what was already in the podcast.
No, that's it. That's all they get.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're
that's
just,
all they get.
it was just, to explain Evangelion, I had to bring up the Dark Tower, but then to explain the Dark Tower, we had to bring up Stephen King, and then to explain all that, we had to mention Mass Effect. Because it's a video game.
And then the other thing was that we just wanted to keep talking about Stephen King.
Yeah. That's what we do.
For mostly we were not using Stephen King to explain Evangelion at all.
This is what we do.
Death Stranding.
I have a thing. I'm ready to launch into it. You stopped me. Okay.
No, you stopped me to say we should be live on YouTube.
How dare I suggest we give our patrons what they paid for?
We were going to do that with Shenmue.
Death Stranding has all these really heavy-handed metaphors, but they are all layered together. Like, every inch of this game is a metaphor, but so many...
But they're not complex metaphors.
No, they are not complex metaphors, and they don't all seem to fit together. Some of them almost seem contradictory, like you're essentially going from city to city and connecting them to this new internet so that we can connect everybody, so we can bring people together, because humanity's been separated and isolated from this disastrous event that happened decades ago called the Death Stranding. And so we need to reconnect everybody with the internet. But then part of it almost seems like it's this commentary on the isolation of the internet age, where it's like everyone hides away in their house. You're literally handcuffed to your bed. Yeah. And that's the thing. He has the handcuff wrist device thing, but when he sleeps in his bed, he handcuffs himself to a rail on the bed, which I can only guess is supposed to be a charger or something, but it just looks, frankly, extremely uncomfortable to sleep that way.
Well, and the first time it was someone else had handcuffed him to the bed.
Right, yeah. Well, yes, it keeps...
Dead man handcuffed him to the bed.
It also keeps trying to play in this space where...
Oh, by the way, we are giving we haven't played very much. We're giving spoilers for the first 2 hours of this game.
Essentially, yeah. Because it's... Yeah. Yeah, I mean... So, starting this game, honestly, I got a little bit into this game, and not that I hated the game, but I just felt like so much of the story and the characters off the bat sucked. Like I said, not the world, like the Death Stranding. I guess we should explain all that stuff.
I don't feel like they really explained it. The world, dead people started making everything blow up, and now they're ghosts.
No. It's like it's basically like the world of the dead has bled over into the real world, and so the dead are stranded in the real world. And so there's like ghosts essentially. The thing is, when the ghosts touch, I think,
kill
a dead person.
No. When the ghosts, when the BTs, the beach.
Those are the ghosts.
Those are the ghosts. The BTs are the ghosts. When the BTs kill a living thing, because they do want to do that, that causes a void out.
I don't think so.
Which is a big explosion.
A void out is like a nuclear bomb. But I don't think it's when they kill a person. I think it's when they touch a dead thing. Well, I guess that would have, if they killed somebody, they would just be touching a dead thing.
Right.
I guess.
Well, so here's the thing. There's been one void out in the game. It happens very early on.
Yeah.
And it's because a BT grabbed and then ate a living body.
Yeah.
And then later on, someone is like, "Careful, because if the BT eats you, there'll be another void out.
Okay.
So don't die."
Right. Yeah, and so there's that element to it, and then there's also timefall.
The reason the dead bodies are a problem is because after about 48 hours, the dead body produces a BT.
Oh,
so you have
to
burn the dead bodies to prevent them from becoming BTs.
That's what right. It's not... Okay, I was thinking you had to burn the bodies to avoid a void out. Mm-hmm. But it's like the opposite. You have to prevent it from becoming a BT so that it will...
It's stupid. It's cool, but it's dumb. It's just like some dumb shit.
It's cool. It's cool, but it's just some dumb shit. It doesn't actually... So humanity only exists in very small groups of people that are essentially living underground because they can't go out because there's all these ghosts that are going to cause a void out, and there's timefall, which is rain that anything it touches fast forwards through time. So if it touches your skin gets all old and wrinkly, essentially. And if it touches equipment, the equipment just, degrades at an alarming rate and eventually just like kind of turns to dust.
Right, yeah. And then I don't know how I assume this is important. I don't know. The timefall, as soon as it touches something and does its timefall thing, it's just water. It stops being timefall. Like if you had a cup made of something that doesn't degrade. Which one that doesn't really degrade? Plastic. If you had a plastic cup, you can put it outside, and then you can, after
Styrofoam.
the time fall, after the time fall, you can just drink that. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, it's not, it doesn't persist as, so, like, that part, it doesn't make, like, basically, the world is really bleak, and this is why you have to create the strands, this is why everyone's so disconnected and isolated, but it's like, it's so bleak that it's not believable, because these BTs are everywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, the idea that, like, essentially a nuclear bomb goes off every time a BT catches a person, it's like, you couldn't.
And no one is out but you. It's you and the mules, the people who have gotten too addicted to delivering packages, so now they just steal packages.
So that is like the. so this is what I was talking about like the internet isolation thing, where it's like these couriers are.
Can I interrupt you? Do you feel like people are taking this game too seriously?
What?
I don't know. I just
like
feel
us?
like this. No, not us. I've listened to some podcasts about this game.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's just so silly. I haven't heard a lot of people talking just about how silly it is.
Do you think it's maybe because
people are more familiar with the Kojima vibe?
Yeah, maybe it's partly because it's kind of to be expected with Kojima, and also maybe because Kojima's games have been so popular that this is like a big deal release, and so it's like they're, not viewing it as serious, but they're like taking it seriously. Does that make sense?
Well,
like taking it like as not like this is a very serious game, but like just like this is an important game that we should think about.
I don't know. So the way that I feel like the coverage has been going so far is that it's like, so you're Norman Reedus, and Norman Reedus likes to do three things. He likes to pound Monster Energy drinks. He likes to collect his pee and use them as grenades, and
he likes to turn his blood into ropes.
And so there's things like that where people are like, here the like, isn't the pea grenade, isn't that funny? Isn't it crazy? Isn't this weird baby so weird? But it's like, but the whole thing is like that. There isn't any part of it to me that isn't like, pea grenade is only barely not like more silly than the rest of this game.
I think
you can whip out that dong and just pee on whatever anytime.
You get to see it? Is it there? No?
I think they blur it out.
Oh, okay.
But you can just whip it out and, like, sometimes you have to pee and there's a toilet, and sometimes you have to pee and there's only the outside, and so you just pee outside.
That's, yeah. Or you can pee on stuff.
So I don't know. I guess I just haven't heard a lot of laughing while people are discussing the game.
Well, the thing is, I don't think. Yeah, I guess part of it is like, to some extent, Metal Gear is kind of about taking silly things seriously, or it's like those stories are serious, but they're peppered in with very silly things, and it kind of all blends together. It's like, there's fucking Die Hardman, which, first of all, his name is Die Hardman, and also he wears a skull mask that is never addressed. He's just a man in a skull mask. Like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is some shadowy villain. We're not going to see, we'll maybe see a tiny bit at the beginning to know that he's our enemy, and then we won't see him till later. No, he is all the fuck over this thing. He will not stop talking to you. It's crazy.
He's like one of your main, like, points of contact.
He's like,
and he's your mom's like best friend or chief of staff or some shit.
He's like your Otacon if like you didn't like Otacon and neither did your character.
And they've known each other for decades.
Love his fucking suit though.
Is this a sharp suit?
Love it.
They've known each other for decades, so that means that in order to know that someone wearing a mask is someone, that means that the last time you saw them, they were wearing that mask. And so he's been wearing this mask for decades.
Yeah, because he's not like, Die Hardman, what's with the mask? He's like, yes, you.
He sees the mask and says, oh, look,
guy.
It's Die Hardman. Haven't seen that guy in a decade.
Dude.
Yeah.
My prediction for the future, mask comes off, it's not Die Hardman, and he just assumed that it was because he was wearing the mask.
It has the same voice and body.
And he has the same voice and body.
And suit.
The suit is like, he's wearing like the kind of suit that like a congressperson would have wore in like Civil War times. He's got that kind of tie that I don't know what it's called, but it looks dope.
What kind of ties? I
don't know.
Picture it.
It's like, I don't know, but it's like it's thick and kind of puffs out like I don't know. But like, yeah, I'm like looking at
Is
Die
it a
Hard.
scarf? Maybe not even a tie.
It's scarf-like.
Ascot.
It's it's somewhere in there. It's a neck ornament of some description.
Yeah. It's not a bolo.
It's not a bolo. I'm looking at Die Hardman and I'm like, we gotta bring it back. This is what we should all be dressing like if we're gonna be a member of the state.
Puffy suit.
Puffy
Do you
suit?
think Die Hardman should have a powdered wig?
God, I wish Die Hardman had a powdered wig.
That'd be pretty fucking funny.
Fucking good.
That'd be very, very funny.
Or is that's
Do you have
like
anything? I interrupted you in the middle of a point, but did you have anything else about this game?
yes. But real quick, that'll be part of the Die Hardman reveal. He'll take the mask off and we'll go, oh my God, it's not Die Hardman. He goes, that's right. It's not I'm not Die Hardman.
I'm George Washington.
I'm Die Harderman. And then he will put a powdered wig on because you didn't know. You thought my thing was a mask. No, that's Die Hardman's thing. And I was pretending to be him. My thing is a powdered wig that is also, like a robot, like it has robot arms.
Coming out of the curls of the wig?
The curls unfurl, and they're little robot hands.
Wow.
Can, like, wipe sweat off his brow.
And we know that they have that technology because you're wearing a backpack that has that same thing on it.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
What else did I have about Death Stranding? So, yeah. I like the trappings about the BTs and the what have yous. I think
that is the two best things are like the lore,
yeah,
not the story.
That's what it is. I don't like the
lore.
story so far. I like the lore.
The story I'm curious about,
yeah,
but it's not. I mostly just want to hear more about the lore.
I'm also like, I can't believe no one has talked yet about how fucked up the bridge baby thing is. Like, people talk about how weird it is.
Well,
like,
do you know about the still mother?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's so fucked.
It's super fucked.
Okay, like, people talk about, like, oh, it's weird that you have a baby strapped to you, and this has, like, a mechanical function in the game and the world. But, like, they don't talk about how the bridge babies are made into... They're regular babies that are made to be a bridge baby somehow while they're still in the womb, and then the mother is like
put into a coma
coma so that the baby is like in this suspended state of be in utero.
Yeah.
And
it has to think that it
is
essentially
every once in a while it slowly like over time of not being connected to its mother, it like it becomes like toxic or something. It becomes autotoxemic or something.
Yeah, if it gets too stressed out, it gets too
stressed out because it's not connected to its mother. So you have to like plug it back in, which will do a remote, like a long distance physical connection to its mother who is in a hospital somewhere.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
like a remote. It's like a chiral net connection.
And so not only is this weird,
although you can take it out and you could rock it, and that takes away the
and the thing is like everyone in this. Well, we've only talked about bridge babies. As I have seen in the game, Sam has only talked about bridge babies to Deadman, who is Deadman is like the one character that I kind of like.
Okay.
And it's Guillermo del Toro face.
It's also the one character that Sam kind of likes.
Yeah, sorta.
He doesn't seem to like anyone else.
It's Guillermo del Toro's face, and I don't know if it's a performance capture of him. Probably not. And but it's not his voice, but the voice is just somebody who kind of sounds like Guillermo del Toro.
It's not his voice?
It's not his voice.
What?
Probably because he's not an actor. It's like, hey, scan my face, put me in the game, but like I can't act, so get someone else to do that. Maybe that's the thing.
Maybe, but it credits Guillermo del Toro when they do the credit thing. It doesn't say.
No.
It says where they list the voice actor.
Are you sure?
For everyone else, for him it says Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, maybe it is him. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, it sounds like him. I was like, oh, they've really got someone who sounds like Guillermo del
Okay.
Toro to do this. I don't know.
Could go either way.
But anyways, Dead Man
It is, but not above Kojima to use someone's face and a different voice actor, but credit the famous face.
But I suppose it's not. But the game has been doing that. Like, it's been crediting the facial capture and the voice actors separately.
Oh, maybe I didn't know.
It'll be like Bridget Strand, and then a name, and then underneath it, it'll have another name that says voice, like in parentheses.
I didn't notice that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Anyways, Dead Man is talking about this bridge baby. I mean, this is not new. Like, this comes up in fiction all the time, is that he's, like, talking about this baby like it's literally equipment, like, oh, it's defective, it's broken, it doesn't work, so throw it away. Put it in the incinerator.
Yeah.
Like, literally saying that to him.
And then he's mad when you don't, too.
Or he's, like, confused. He's like, listen, dude, it's like, doesn't work, and it's not going to live much longer, so just get rid of it. And obviously, this is supposed to be upsetting because they're talking about a baby like it's a piece of equipment. You're supposed to go like, ooh, that's messed up. But like, it is.
Are you trying to talk about how it sends a really confusing anti-abortion message?
No.
Because it does.
No, what I mean is like, it feels like the bridge baby thing is so much darker than even the game realizes, and like Sam decides not to dispose of the baby, and he decides to keep the baby. I guess mostly I just think it's crazy that nobody of all the people that I heard talk about this game, like at least 10 different people that have played this game, like on podcasts and stuff, nobody has been like, isn't this bridge baby thing so fucked up? I'm just like, how does no one think this is as fucked up as I think it is?
I don't know. It is technically a fetus.
I guess it feels like the game. Like, I'm sure the game is going to, there's going to be more about bridge babies. I'm sure we'll learn something about something. But it's literally just like...
Well, the game at least Dead Man claims that they don't really know much about how they work.
Right.
I read a thing about how maybe the way that they sense BTs is through echolocation.
Right. This is the thing, is the bridge baby essentially powers the BT scanner, the ghost scanner that he wears on his back that tells you where the ghosts are. That's why you need a bridge baby. And the reason is because it is connected to its mother, and the mother is dead or comatose, and so it's like she's stranded between the worlds of living and dead, and that's why the mother and the baby have a connection. The baby is a living thing that has a connection to the world of the dead. And so that's how, and it's like, this is all really dark. And no one that I've heard from has seemed to think that. And also, like, the game, like even Sam.
The baby's cute and people like it.
I guess.
And so they're like, it's not dark because it's here and I'm taking care of it. I think that's what it is.
I guess. It was just kind of weird that, like, I don't know. It's weird that they're just talking about, they're like, yeah, like this dark baby magic was developed decades ago. We don't know anything about it or how it works. We just know that it works.
We just know how to do it.
Sam doesn't say anything. Even though Sam decides that incinerating a baby is not a great thing to do and decides not to do it, he does not vocalize any of this. He doesn't say like, You really think we should be incinerating this baby? Don't you think it's kind of fucked up that we take these babies from quote-unquote still mothers and use them as equipment?
My impression wasn't that... I think that there's some implication that Sam is making a moral choice that he feels bad about burning the baby. But I also think that he doesn't believe that the baby doesn't work. Because it worked.
Right.
Like, they were like, the baby was defective, it wasn't working. Dead Man says that.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw that the baby was working. It was showing where the BTs were in the scene that someone else was using the BT.
I think it twice now. I think we've seen it stop working mysteriously. Maybe it's like maybe it doesn't work consistently. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get the impression that, and I don't want to assign this solely to Kojima because, like you said, 1,000 people made this game. But whoever designed all this, it seemed like they started with the idea of, wouldn't it be a cool metaphor for you to have to carry around a baby for the whole game? And, like, the baby is a mechanic, but it also has a symbol within the story. And also it could be a cute fun. He's giving a thumbs up. It's a thumbs up baby. And like they started with that idea and then tried to work it into the story and didn't notice that the way they worked it into the story is like horrific even for a thing that's supposed to be dark. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they way overshot how dark this bridge baby thing is.
Yeah, well there is more. You've seen the Mads character.
Yes.
So that's the thing that, like, that's the unknown here, is, like, what does that turn into?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you reconnect the baby from, like, you go to your room and you go to sleep, and then when you go back to do more deliveries, you take the baby out of the incubator and reattach it, and you
plug it in. You plug it into yourself.
You plug it into your self suit, and you get, like, a quick scene of the Mads Mikkelsen, is that?
Yeah.
Character talking to the baby because Sam has Dooms, which is a disease that I still don't know what it is.
Dooms. He's got Dooms.
He's got Dooms. He has Dooms. It lets him be more aware of BTs than most people.
Yeah, apparently Dooms is a condition that has stages, and I think it is a terminal condition, like he will eventually die of it. Though I guess he's a repatriate, which means he doesn't die.
Maybe when you die from Dooms...
So much to this.
Maybe when you die from Dooms, you... So here's the thing that the game... The game has a lot of stuff to tell you.
Could I tell you the most recent episode of the Giant Bombcast was called OK Doomer? I was like, nice. It was pretty good.
The game has a lot to tell you, and a lot of the exposition feels really clunky. Sam is a person that lives in this world and has ostensibly lived in the world the way that it's operating for his whole life.
Yeah.
There are characters who imply that they were around before the Death Stranding event, I think. Well,
they said... Dead Man says that the Bridge Baby stuff was developed, quote-unquote, decades ago, and he says all that information was lost after the Death Stranding. So it sounds like the Death Stranding is, it's at least less than 100 years old, because Bridge Babies are less than 100 years old, because he said decades and not like a century.
Right, yeah. There were characters that I think implied, like older characters that implied that they were around pre-Death Stranding event. So a lot of the exposition is a little clunky, because they're explaining all of this insane shit to you as if you've never heard it before.
Yeah.
Though this is a guy who has lived in this world forever.
Sam is standing next to somebody who goes, yeah, after the Death Stranding, couriers like you became heroes. Everyone relied on you for everything. And I'm expecting the character to go, yeah, I know that. Shut the fuck up. And it never happens.
Yeah. So so there's a ton. Almost every time you talk with someone, there's something like that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I do like about the game is how much of a world there is. Like, it's not shy about being like, yeah, this is a world that's different from ours, and so there's just a billion things to know.
Right.
Because that's what being in a world is like. There's a billion things to know. And the act of trying to wrap your head around this other place is fun.
Yeah.
And this game does... The world has more than most other games do in terms of like stuff to know, stuff that people in this world know that's different from what you know as a player.
Right.
And that's fun.
Yeah. It kind of tries to do that. Like, I think this is not a great term, but I think it's called like universalism, when you're kind of set in a world that would be unfamiliar probably to the viewer, but it's not explained like it's unusual. It treats it like it's normal, and you're just supposed to pick it up as you go along. It does that for like 30 seconds, and it's really weird and confusing, and then it just dumps it all on you.
Yeah. The delivery system for this lore is not good, but just like the amount of stuff brings a sort of a realness to the world, but which it then fucks itself up in other ways by like you know, I guess it's thematically consistent. You like basically never see another character.
It's almost like a sort of a trick. Everything has a cute name everything has a cute name that's maybe an acronym. Like the babies are bridge babies or BBs.
Yeah.
And the fucking thing you use to connect everything to the chiral network, which is their version of the internet, is called
it's like a time machine internet.
It's called a Cupid. Q-PID. Cupid.
Yeah.
What else do we have going on? You know, you have
BTs?
you have the cufflinks. They go around your wrist.
Dooms might be an acronym.
Dooms. You have the cufflinks. You have BT. Yeah, BTs, beached things. All these. It reminds me of
mules. That's they always spell that in all caps. I don't know what it stands. So the mules are exporters that go.
Exporters.
They're
import exporters.
They're former porters that are so into porting that they can't port anymore. They just steal everything.
I want to get back to those guys real quick.
Yeah.
But I'll say it reminded me working at Best Buy. And Best Buy did this thing where they would give all this normal-ass retail shit different names, and it was often an acronym, and it's like essentially a trick into making you feel invested in being an employee of Best Buy. Like when
was it an effective trick?
For some people, very effective.
Ugh.
Like every retail store occasionally has to do inventory, which is like when you got to stay late because you have to count everything in the store and take inventory. But they would call it PI, which I assume means product inventory. But it's like they would call that PI, and I can't remember any of the other things, but they had that kind of thing. It was like they took a normal thing and just gave it an acronym for no reason, and it kind of creates this, like, it becomes a lingo that takes a little bit to pick up on, but then you feel like you're invested in being part of Best Buy. Like, I can't leave. I'm so ingrained in the culture. It almost feels like this kind of thing is like a trick to get you invested in Death Stranding. Like, it's interesting to learn all of these terms and everything that's happening, but it is all kind of meaningless nonsense.
Yeah.
And those mules are exporters that
former porters.
They're former porters. Former
porters, now exporters.
Okay. So the world is very dangerous. Nobody goes out. They all live underground or whatever.
Except
the porters. And that's why they're like heroes. And they get likes from people for doing deliveries, just like, an internet like. But I think it literally gives them like don't they get some kind of
Oxytocin.
They get like an injection of oxytocin from it?
Or pills or whatever, I don't know.
But it's not...
I don't know about from... I think it's the inherent oxytocin in receiving a like.
Okay, yeah, I haven't gotten to the part of the story that actually explains this, so that part I was unclear on.
I barely have either.
I don't know if it's the literal oxytocin that, like, the same way if you get a Twitter like on your tweet, you'll get a little oxytocin, I guess. This must be more literal because essentially these mules are people that got so addicted to the oxytocin that they got from getting likes from doing porter work that they basically went mad.
Yeah. Well, so there's a part that you were missing.
They went mad.
There's a part that you're missing, which is that pre-Death Stranding, they had automated the world, and including the delivery system. So no one needed a job. Right. And so when no one had a job, everyone went insane, which is fucking stupid.
Just like it would happen in real life.
A lot of people couldn't handle feeling like they didn't have a purpose, and they didn't know how to find a purpose other than to have a job. So they created a bunch of jobs that they didn't need to have, but it was just so that these people who felt like they needed to have a job could have something to do. It was basically busy work.
Yeah.
And so one of those things was like having some people do deliveries still instead of just the drones. But then when the Death Stranding happened, those porters who couldn't handle they didn't have an identity other than their job of being porters, now all of a sudden were literally crucial to the survival of people. And so I think that, coupled with the like system, gave them what the game calls delivery dependence syndrome.
Oh, DDS.
DDS, which is an addiction to delivering. See, this is what I'm talking about. Why are people not cracking up talking about this game? So then what happens is, you get so addicted to delivering, and this is the part where I'm not clear on. You get so addicted to delivering that you start stealing everyone else's deliveries. The implication being that at some point they meant to deliver all of the stolen goods, but instead they just form enclaves of mules and they just keep everything. So I don't know how you get from someone who's addicted to delivering to a bandit who refuses to deliver anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the whole thing seems more than a bit problematic.
Where?
But this is what I was talking about when it seems to not know whether or not it thinks internet culture is good or not.
Right, it has no idea.
Like, because, yeah, it's like you essentially have these people that have gone mad from their addiction to getting likes, essentially. But then you also have the main thrust of the story being to connect everyone to the internet, but also you have all these people that it's supposed to be fucked up and sad that they all literally stay locked in their rooms, handcuffed to their beds.
Yeah.
And,
and so at some point Sam does say, like he says a couple times actually, like, why do you want to bring America back? You're the president of jack shit, which is a great fucking line. That's awesome. That's the best line of the whole game, was you're the president of jack shit.
I was going off about that line 6 months ago when it was in the trailer.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You gave me nothing from that. I was like, let me tell you about the line in this trailer. You're the president of jack shit. And you were just like, pfft. I'm like, come on!
I didn't know. I needed... You know what I needed? I needed to hear Norman Reedus say it.
Bridgie, you're the president of jack shit.
Mom.
Mom that I won't call mom. Oh, here's another thing.
Wait, no.
All right.
So, telling Bridget and then Amelie, the two presidents...
the two presidents... Played by the same voice actor.
But their mother and daughter, and neither of them were elected.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that his mom wasn't elected. Do you know that?
I don't know. But I fucking know. She was not elected. There's no America to elect her.
Yeah, I guess.
How can you be the president of America without an America?
Yeah.
If you're trying to to reconstruct America, then you have to be president of something else.
Yeah.
Because America doesn't exist. Anyway,
So-
so you're like, no, reconstructing America, that's stupid. America's done. We don't need it. And then they tell you their plan for reconnecting America to the internet, and he's like, how is reconnecting everyone to the internet going to get rid of the BTs? And it's like, that question was asked hour 2, and I'm now at hour 8, and they have not made any progress on answering that question.
Wait till you get to hour 58. I'm sure they'll have a great answer. So this is the thing. I've heard that regardless of what you've heard, what you think about the story, it sounds like that the story, from what I've heard, it does not reach like a higher meaning. I've heard that
they're mired in not.
I've heard that like the metaphors that it is serving to you at the beginning is the same metaphors that they're serving to you at the end. Though I have heard that there is some kind of turn with the whole like UCA, the United Cities of America, which are called knots. They're all called knots. They're stranded together. It's a knot.
There's Capital Knot, Port Knot, Edge Knot. All the cities are some kind of knot.
Capital Knot City. It's really funny. It's not a city.
Yeah, that's when I was talking earlier about how everything and like this, fundamentally, this is a game about how like, isn't it interesting that words mean two things?
Yeah.
That's one of them. There's a few more where in the first few hours you'll just like hear a word and then hear it used in a different context or used like either a homonym or a homophone. Doesn't matter to the game. And it essentially is saying, isn't that funny or something? Isn't that interesting? And isn't it interesting how it's just I hear it in like the Sean Clements Hollywood Handbook.
Now isn't it interesting that Strand it be a connection, but also you cut the connection and that's a strand.
Doesn't it mean two things?
That
and can't you speak on that?
He asks across from a man in a skull mask. Now, it's called a bridge baby, but also a BB is like what people call a baby. It's like a BB. Can you speak on that?
No. And then also the game can't, it seems like, speak on that.
Wow. Now, see, that's interesting because they're handcuffs that allow you to make your way through the world. Like, they set you free, but also they imprison you. And can you speak on that?
Speak on that? I do like the part of the game where I like the lore stuff, and I like, if people in the chat have not heard me say this because it was before, I do really have fun with the actual going from place to place.
Oh, sure. I'm worried. I've had fun with it so far. I am worried that it is not going to hold up to 60 hours of gameplay. But I guess there's more to it. Oh, sorry. And the internet isolation thing, the other part of it is that a big part of this game is that you put down environmental things. You can build watchtowers, you can place ladders to help you climb things or cross rivers, you place...
Get a bridge, too.
A literal bridge. You can build roads, like public works projects, essentially. You can leave ropes to help people climb up things and rappel down.
The ropes are great.
And then those will show up in other people's games via the PlayStation Network, and then people can like your
narratively
things.
Through the chiral network. So you can only access other people's buildings once you've reconnected that area to the chiral net.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, here you have these people that have gone insane because they got addicted to likes, but also it's driving you to get likes from other players.
Yeah. I can't tell if the game is like, there's like two things going on, and one of them is like
I mean, there is something. I mean, like that is
It's like they're basically saying like, please drink responsibly with light, or they're saying like,
well, drink Monster responsibly. We haven't even mentioned the canteen that absorbs any water that touches it and turns it into Monster energy.
But yeah, it's like the internet. The problems with the internet will be solved by more internet, or like the internet leads to people being isolated, so we have to practice at being connected to each other through the internet. It like doesn't. It literally is. It is incredibly vapid. It's totally vapid. Like it's just.
It's also so interesting how much overlap there is with Evangelion. Like when you say it like that, it's all this kind of shit. You have no idea. It's so wild. But I mean, it is honestly a bit of that. It's real. Like in the age of the internet, we've never been more connected, but in other ways, it is very easy to feel isolated. And that's interesting. That's not but interesting.
It's the start of a point.
Yes. It's a question, but does Death Stranding provide an answer?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it will.
Also, I think this whole like
I've heard people talk about the game, and it doesn't seem like it will. I heard someone who beat the game saying, does this game like the internet or not like the internet? And part of it, I think, is that there is a disconnect a little bit between the narrative and the rest of the game, where no, I guess that's not even true, because you're right. You are trying to get likes by leaving signs that people like and by putting bridges in the right spot. Yeah, I guess I just have to play more. I've only played like 8 or 9 hours. I think that I'm close to chapter 3, which I heard was like a big, the game like opens up at chapter 3 or something. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Close.
I always love when there's a specific chapter of a game that people are like, wait till you hit that chapter. That's when the game gets white hot. Because I feel like it's never true. Like, it's always a little true.
I don't know. I think like... I think some things
Ice
are
Cream
like
Jones
that.
says, I read a spoiler on the wiki, and boy oh boy. Who knows what that means?
It's a stupid game. We'll see if it gets... It just really, at this point, it depends on how much of the game is going to be dealing with BTs, which I think is not fun, and dealing with mules, which also seems not fun.
Yeah.
And just, like, walking around, which is fun.
It's probably all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I'll say is I definitely see the through lines between Death Stranding and the kind of stuff going on in like Metal Gear. And I've always, sort of despite myself, have always really liked Metal Gear's vibe of like little cute things that are too clever by half, like, like the double entendre with the strand thing, or, whatever. Or Metal Gear's habit of having really convoluted plots that it will then just like pull the emergency brake on the whole story and be like, I'm just gonna stare at the camera and explain every single little detail going on in this story that you wanted to know about. But I think it's kind of like oddly satisfying because I don't know. I like when things are explained sometimes, but
well, I also do want to know.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about what all this insane shit is.
Yeah, it just Death Stranding so far, it feels like the safety is off on a lot of that stuff. We talked about like all their weird little cute metaphors, like the cufflinks and whatever. There's just so much of it so fast, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like at least that aspect of it is definitely missing some restraint. I think
I don't know. I like that. There's something about like how much of the narrative of the game is based on shit that you have no idea about is at least it's giving me something to chew on while I walk from town to town.
Yeah, I think that vibe works better with sort of like a bombastic action story, and when this is kind of like seems more like mellow and kind of like somber a little bit, I don't know that it works as well. But I mean, I don't know what else happens in the story yet. But I do like that Sam thinks the whole mission is bullshit. I love that he's just like, America doesn't exist. It was made up. it's made up, and it like putting everyone on the internet is not gonna put America back. It's not how this works.
But he doesn't do anything with that either.
Yeah,
he doesn't say no. Like basically, they convince him to do it because his sister is like kidnapped on the West Coast or something. They're like, yeah, they let me do whatever I want, but I can't leave here. Like, they totally will let me be the president and try to orchestrate you setting me free.
So weird.
But I can't leave.
What? Yeah, what? There must be a reason for that. I really hope there ends up being a reason for why she has this very loose imprisonment and not literally like, I'm in a cell. I guess it's just
and
so
then they
she
go
can...
and they're like, yeah, these people are terrorists. They create void outs on purpose.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they already.
Yeah.
They're called demons, but it's spelled different.
Yes. No, isn't there more? It's not just demons.
Something demon something or something demon. Yeah, I can't remember the full.
Yeah. I guess maybe just the justification is like how she can keep appearing to you in holograms.
Yeah.
If she was like just locked up in a cell, then she couldn't keep showing up in your dreams.
The thing that they say is they're like, this is a decentralized group, so they don't have a leader but share an ideology. They don't tell you what that ideology is.
Right.
I guess they imply that it's that they don't want America back.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. Yeah, I feel it's a lot. I'm liking it more. Like I said, I'm only like 2 hours in. I'm liking it more now than when I started. Though, like, when I started, I got really bummed out about the idea of playing Metal Gear Solid. I'm like, oh, am I going to hate Metal Gear Solid now? Like, am I going to go back and just see everything I hate about Death Stranding and Metal Gear and be like, oh, this was always crap? I mean, because definitely, Kojima's a dumb idiot. He's not smart, and he does not seem to be a person who has good ideas. And so
but at least he had an idea.
But at least he had an idea. Yeah, I think to some extent he does seem like somebody who's good at directing games. Like, his games are fun to play.
Yeah,
they certainly are. And if that's the product of good people around him, he has good people around him.
Phantom Pain, I thought was so fun to play.
So fun to play.
What a really, really fun game to play.
Absolutely. But to some extent, Kojima is a dinosaur, honestly, in games. Like, his games, I feel like, meant a lot to young people 20 years ago, and all those people have grown up, and the industry and the medium have grown up, and Hideo Kojima does not seem to have grown up. So I feel like even if I end up coming away net positive on Death Stranding, I can feel the timer fuse running down on Hideo Kojima. Like, he's like reaching some kind of like George Lucas like prequel movies era or something. What's up? I have heard some people who like the game less than what seems to be popular opinion right now, because this game got like 8.5s on Metacritic, and that's like an 85.
There's a handful of people that really hate this.
Really hate it.
And a lot of those people dumber than Kojima. So
yeah, like I don't remember who said this, but like somebody was like, this is like Kojima's Phantom Menace. Which I like Phantom Menace, okay? You know,
Now
like,
you do. It took a lot of fucking years.
Well, like I liked it a lot as a kid, and then got older and was like, "Oh, this is terrible," and I kind of came back on it a tiny bit. It's not great.
I feel like if you want to call something a Phantom Menace, what that means to me is it's a thing that popular opinion is that it's the worst thing ever made. When actually it's like a C minus.
But
that's not true of this game. It got 85s.
That's not
or
true.
It got
Yeah.
8.5s.
But what's interesting about that is so many of those reviews kind of have this, and just people in general have this vibe where they say, I liked it, but I'm not sure I can recommend it. But like everyone said that all at once, which is really interesting.
I don't know. Everyone all at once saying that a really expensive game by a famous name, it like giving it a better score than their attitude suggests they want to give it, and then saying that they don't necessarily recommend it even though it's good. Like that just seems like some video game coverage bullshit to me.
It does seem like some video game coverage.
So like
bullshit
part of me wants to be like, to look at this game and be like, this is obviously weird. It's kind of a mess. And you know, video game journalists love to give better scores than games deserve when those things are like by big studios, by big publishers, by famous names.
Yeah. Oh, people definitely want to like this game because it's Kojima. He made all these great games people love. He was unfairly fired from a terrible company that hated him and hated everybody who bought their games. And this is like his big, next thing. And so people really want to like it, for sure.
Right.
Regardless, like totally irrespective of the quality of the game, people want to like a Kojima game.
But I mean, I'm not even talking about Kojima. I mean, games in general. Mm-hmm. I think that
When I open my phone, I'm looking at the chat.
There's a trend to just want to praise a big game.
Yeah.
Because I think, people's like we make fun of every once in a while the old GameSpot like graphics, sound.
What's the tilt on Death Stranding?
Yeah, this is a Tilt 9 game for sure. Tilt 10.
So that means you think
straight 7's Tilt 10.
So it's more than the sum of its parts.
Well, but that so. I guess what I'm saying
you're
is
not even
we
a
make fun
of
of that.
This game.
Was that?
You're not a. To reiterate,
I'm not even a
sixth
of the way. So like we make fun of that, and I feel like people who write about games feel like we have moved away from that, but I still see.
You think people want that back so bad?
No, I think that we need to fully. I think that people are tied. People are tied to it like a BB to their still mother.
They are stranded.
They are stranded to the to thinking about games in a way that leads to like GameSpot being referred to as 8.5.com. You remember 8.5.com? No, you haven't heard that one?
No.
But you get it.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because they give everything 8.5.
Right, they give everything 8.5. And what did fucking Death Stranding get? I got an 8.5. And so like there's a desire to give games good scores, especially when they feel expensive.
They feel expensive.
And feel like they were made by someone who really meant it or something.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, all of the people that I saw really upset about this game were all some of my least favorite people in terms of coverage of games.
I know who you're talking about.
Owen Good from Polygon.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
I thought you were talking about Dan Rather.
I was, but I was joking.
Oh,
but
I
also
see.
both of them.
I see what you did.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, look you want my scritches now.
Yeah.
Oh, you see that I have the
My
good
cat's
scritches.
been sleeping on Kylie's jacket this whole time.
He
And snoring a little bit.
famously hates me. Every time I come here, I try to get him to love me, and Keith always insists, he's a nice cat, he loves everybody. If you just try to pet him, he'll like it. And invariably, he tries to claw me or bite me every time. But now I think we've tricked him, because he has a cone on, so he can't see everyone who's scratching him, so he's learned to just accept it a little bit, and I think I got him scritches before he realized it was me, and then he realized, oh, you have good scritches.
To be fair, I don't say that he's nice and that he likes everybody. Although that is more true now than it was ever before. Mm-hmm. He always has been kind of a little asshole. That's all that I want to say about Death Stranding.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some people in the chat saying like, "Oh, I mean, this game sounds like it's relaxing to play." This game's totally relaxing to play.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. If you just
until
want to
run into some BTs,
right? Well, I mean, but still, then it's not high intensity gameplay.
No.
Yeah,
but it is super annoying.
It seems like a good podcast. Game.
Literally, it annoys the fucking shit out of me when I have to deal with some BTs. Yeah. Although it really has only happened for like 4 times.
Oh.
In 6 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it still annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a good podcast game, though I'm so early that every time I tried to listen to a podcast while I was playing it, fucking Die Hardman would get on the radio and try to explain one other fucking mechanic. And I'm ugh. The interface is terrible. That was very frustrating.
Oh, the text is so small.
Trying to figure out the map, and
I had to
everything.
go into my controls to try and figure out what a symbol was, and it was the options menu. It wanted me to press options. The options button.
Options button.
Yeah. It was trying to get me to press options. I was like, I have no idea what this is trying to get me to do. And if now that I know, I can tell it's the shape of the button, and above it says options, exactly like it does on the controller. Yeah. But it was totally unrecognizable.
Huh.
Yeah.
I actually weirdly. Because you've only been playing on this TV, right?
Yes.
TV I've been playing on is slightly bigger, but I'm sitting like 3 times farther away than you, and I didn't feel like I had a problem with that.
Really?
The game I really had a problem with small text on was The Outer Worlds.
Oh, really? I see. Opposite. I didn't have a problem with that. Although the TV I played Outer Worlds on was upstairs, bigger than this, and 3 times farther away. So I don't know what the fuck that is, but
I don't know. I should just. All my opinions,
almost twice as big as this one, the TV that I played Outer Worlds
on. For context, Keith bought the game for $60. I rented it for $7.
Right.
So that's also I would not.
But to be fair, you rented it for like $2.35 a day, or $1.35 a day.
$7 3 nights. So it's like $2.33.
Yeah. Okay, I was right. My first one was right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money per day.
It is, but it's a lot less than $60.
It's true. But my $60 is going to let you play more of it. It sounds like.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
It's good because I spent too much money to buy the new Professor Layton game because Professor Layton is a girl now, and it has dress up. And a talking dog. And so I was like, I'm gotta be in on this.
I've never played a Professor Layton game.
Oh. The first one is good.
How about this new one that you just wasted all your money on?
It's okay. The opening cutscenes, bangers. Love it. Fire. Slaps. You got this adorable girl. She's starting her own detective agency. She meets a talking dog, and it's really funny that she's like not that interested in helping this talking dog. He's like, "Come on, I'm a talking dog. How are you not interested in my predicament?" And she's like, she's like, "What about a diabolical box that kills you?" Or like she's like listing off previous like Professor Layton plots, like a diabolical box that kills you, or a letter from the future, or artifact from an ancient civilization.
I'm just over all this wacky shit that I'm doing.
Also, she had this dream where she sees Professor Layton, but his eyes are obscured, and she's like, "Daddy, Daddy," but he's like, he walks off into the fog, and so it seems like Professor Layton is her dad, but that she's like estranged from him and he's absent from her life. And I like to go on adventures and do puzzles. He seems like he's the Goku of puzzles. So like he just fucked off from his daughter's life to go like do matchstick puzzles, which I think is hilarious.
I can't raise this kid. I have too much Sudoku.
I have to explain how to get these chickens across the river without letting them be eaten by any foxes and or wolves. But that was only $40.
Okay.
But seems okay. I'll get back to you.
I thought you wanted Cecilia's.
What?
You wanted that deep dish pizza.
I do want that deep dish.
You don't have any money for deep dish pizza?
Oh, I got money for deep dish. I will make money for deep dish pizza. The other thing
they're getting other food, which is why I shooed them. I knew what they were in here to ask, which was, do you want sushi? And I assumed that you didn't want sushi because you don't like sushi.
I've never tried sushi. I want to try sushi. Just a little.
I'll let them know.
The other thing I just bought, I did a rare thing, a thing I almost never do, which is I pre-ordered a game. I guess I'll let you finish.
Good.
Finished. I don't pre-order games because it's stupid and it's bullshit. There's no reason to do it. The only reason...
an orange lightsaber in the Fallen Order.
Ooh, dang.
Because otherwise it's probably just some dumb blue shit.
Hey, bud. Where you gonna purchase that Jedi Fallen Order game?
I don't know. Why?
Are you getting that on Steam or Xbox or anything? You're getting it in some way where I could play it for free without having to buy it myself because I don't have any money left. Is that what you're doing?
I'm in a predicament.
Oh.
I'm either going to buy the Fallen Order, or I'm going to buy a Switch Mini.
Whew. What?
Well, we have one Switch.
What?
And we're about to have 2 copies of Pokemon.
Ooh.
And we're both going to want to play Pokemon.
Oh.
And I got a pretty good deal on the Pokemon. I got one of them 50% off, basically.
That's good.
Yeah.
You see my tweet about it?
I did see your tweet. Viral.
Yeah, a little bit. That was my most liked and retweeted tweet by at least tenfold.
Over 1,000 RTs on that sucker?
I think it was like 3,000.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
And what I learned was, I got a teensy bit of taste of what it would be like to be famous on Twitter. Hate it. It's the worst. Because it was just...
oh, you tweeted about something that someone would have an opinion on.
Basically.
Yeah.
But it was 3 days of just a constant stream of replies of people responding with the same 3 thoughts over and over again. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just like, all right, I'm not saying it's a bad observation, but did you at least check to see if there was already 500 people that had said that?
What were the 3 responses?
So the thing was, I tweeted a screenshot of the Nintendo store with the Pokemon double pack. Pokemon, Sword and Shield, $59.99 individually, $60 each individually. The double pack, $120. No discount on the double pack. And so
one of the responses, I'm sure, was that's actually a penny more.
It's actually a penny more because $59.99 times 2 would be $119.98, but they're charging $119.99. So yeah,
funny observation, but not a meaningful distinction.
Yeah, well, it is genuinely a funny observation. It was just that literally dozens of people made that exact same observation.
Check the replies.
Check the replies.
See if someone else said the thing already, because they probably did.
They probably did.
On a viral tweet.
Come on, baby.
I'm lucky. My most viral tweet was also Pokemon related.
Pokemon's hot,
but it was a full joke. And so almost no one responded to it at all.
Mine was a joke.
But yours was like about price.
How is mine not a joke?
Yours was real information being delivered.
Oh.
You know, it was like...
So I was making a joke about something?
Well, I was also making a joke about something, but you were observing a fact about a game's price and saying that was ridiculous.
Well, the thing I wrote was, It was like a dialogue. It was like Nintendo, and they say, and here we have the Pokemon Double Pack that allows you to purchase both Pokemon versions together. And then valued consumer says, great, what do I save? And Nintendo says, you save time pushing the purchase button once instead of twice.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
That is a joke. But I mean, but there's something to latch on to there, which
Okay.
is the price of a Pokemon game.
And yours was just an amorphous joke in a void.
Yeah, I don't think a Pokemon game was coming out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You remember mine. You remember my viral Pokemon tweet?
I don't know.
It was...
Maybe I will recall it if you say it.
It was... let's get it verbatim. Let's get this verbatim.
Oh, okay, we're getting it verbatim over here. The thing about the Switch Mini, looks so nice. Love the colors. Love the blue and yellow.
It's not a Switch, literally.
Yeah, it doesn't switch. It's like I just, you know,
It's the second time in a row they made a system and then made a system that doesn't do
the
a cheaper
thing.
version that doesn't do the thing.
But you know, to that point, everyone acted like the 2DS was a terrible idea. It seemed like a big success for Nintendo.
Pokemon. Wow, you've captured the legendary creature, a power as old as time itself. Me. It lives in a computer at the hospital now. That's a good tweet.
It's a good tweet.
I guess this did have a lot of replies. Maybe I just muted it. Then there's not that many. There's like 20 or 30 replies here. Total.
Yeah, then also the added thing about my thing with all the replies was it actually just gave me a bunch of anxiety because what? What?
Oh, I thought that it had the 59. That was the replies. 59. I was on the
Oh
wrong.
yeah, I saw it. Oh, okay.
No, I was on the- I was on the
number
wrong
of replies.
page,
Oh,
yeah.
I see. My thing was it just gave me a lot of anxiety because every time I got a new wave of replies, I like had to read through them, you know, like with one eye shut, waiting for one of them to be transphobic. None of them were, so that was fine, but it was still not fun.
You should have muted it.
Well, I did. I like.
Okay.
I didn't have a. I recently switched to only getting notifications from people I follow when they reply.
This is my Death Stranding tweet that I spoofed
see.
at. I riffed on at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, okay. Should I read it?
Yeah, sure. It's a hit.
You have to unlock your phone now. The Norman the Norman Reedus with his ass out game. The Norman Reedus takes out his dick game. P game. Norman Reedus P game. The Norman Reedus has special P game. I have to go actually pee now. He has special P. We didn't even talk about how he's a repatriate.
No, we didn't talk about the repatriate thing.
Who are the repatriates?
Sorry, repatriate.
Who are the repatriates? Guns of the repatriates.
Repatriate. Every character says repatriate.
Sign up to our Repatreon.
Someone just linked this to me.
Sweet baby. Oh, God.
That's very Cape.
That is very New England.
Yeah. That's not just New England. That's Cape Cod shit.
Yeah. Well, not literally, because we don't have any... There's only 3 McDonald's on the Cape. What a
Yeah,
piece of shit.
but you've got to have whatever restaurant you have. It's got to look like a house.
Yeah.
You can't have a restaurant that looks like a restaurant. It has to look like a house.
I get it from both sides. I like there's like the conservative douchebags, and there's like the rich New York only here for 2 months douchebags.
That's another way of saying conservative douchebag.
There's both kinds of conservative douchebags, and then there's the people who live here year round but want to convince themselves that they're the kind of rich New Yorkers that are only here for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they can't decide if they hate those people for being fake Cape Codders or if they want to be them.
It's both.
It's they want to be them.
Yeah. Well, they hate them because they're not them.
Yeah.
They hate them because they're probably worse than they are, but they envy the ability to be worse.
Yeah.
Outer Worlds.
They envy the ability to be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's... Yeah.
Outer Worlds.
The Outer Worlds.
The Outer Worlds. You played some of this?
I played, like 2 hours of it, and then
That's it.
I got kind of bored of it and was like, I'll come back to this. And then I decided I didn't want to.
Wow, okay, so here's a summary. This game is shit.
Whoa.
What a total piece of shit game.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not expect this to see this on the Game of the Year podcast. It is not one of them.
Wow, I don't feel anywhere near that strong, but...
Well, you only played 2 hours of it. I played 40 hours of it.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Or something, I don't know. I played the whole thing. However long it takes to play that game is how much I played.
I heard it was like 20 hours.
I think I played like 30 hours of it. I did like every side mission. Mm-hmm. I wasn't meaning to. It just, there was a lot less of it than I thought there was going to be.
Yeah, I loved the idea of one of those. So, okay, The Outer Worlds is basically a Fallout game made by Obsidian, the same people that made Fallout New Vegas, and also some members of Obsidian like have roots back to the original Fallout games. Mm-hmm. And Fallout New Vegas, love it. Way fucking better than any of the 3 pieces of dog shit that Bethesda put out.
Yeah. I liked Fallout 3 at the time.
Yes, I did like Fallout 3 at the time, but after I played New Vegas, I could never go back to 3 because it was just like so clearly inferior.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
On a gameplay level, inferior, but more specifically on like a story and world level. Like, New Vegas just totally blew it away.
Yeah.
But the thing about Outer Worlds, it's a smaller game with a smaller budget, smaller scope, and so instead of a big open... And it's a space game.
And I would guess a lot of cut content.
Yeah?
That's my guess.
Okay.
If they set out to make this game the way that they made it, I would be very surprised.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, because I thought the idea was that you go to different planets, each planet is very small. I guess, like... I guess
it's possible that they were just over ambitious and they thought they could do, like, there's a point where doing more for less starts being like a House of Cards.
Oh, see, because what I had heard from everyone else was like,
everyone's wrong. Everyone is wrong about this dumb game.
Oh, okay. Well, the popular opinion seems to be that the game's strength is that it's not overambitious, that it knew exactly what it could do, and it did that really well.
No, it didn't do... First of all, it didn't do almost anything really well.
Wow.
This game...
And it is very... Like, even the vibe of, like, mid-century kind of, like, 50s-inspired kind of stuff is, like, all over this game, too. It is sort of like a weird alternate world Fallout. But I think
Firefly shit, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I guess, it's somewhere in there.
It's like somewhere Firefly, Fallout, like splitting, like in the middle of those things. Mm-hmm. It's like it's got more of the 50s-ish Fallout shtick.
But I thought from what I saw, it seemed like it did it way better than Fallout. Like, it seemed like it actually benefited from getting away from the Fallout brand, to me. At
this point, I don't really like Fallout 3 very much. No. I really did not like Fallout 4. Yeah. And I would have to... I think that while
you would have to hold my family at ransom to get me to play Fallout 76.
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah, I haven't played it, and I will. I won't even try it. I would. There's no way I would even consider. Like, it wouldn't even be fun to experience how stupid Fallout 76 seems. Although I did hear about
Fallout First.
I did hear about Fallout First is the paid Fallout 76 service that you can subscribe to, and I heard about people that were not subscribed to that hunting down Fallout First players, which I think is really funny.
But what was great was seeing like a Reddit post or some kind of forum post from somebody saying that Fallout First people, we're being targeted. We need to make gated communities to keep the free players out. It's like, I just loved that idea.
Oh my
it's
God.
called a Fallout First, which seems to be a play on America First. Like, it seems like they're still playing in this like weird America shit, but like they're so bad at it.
Yeah, they're terrible at it. They don't know how to. They have decided to make. I don't talk about Bethesda anymore.
Yeah, fuck it. We already did this. Go back to our Fallout 76
So at some
pod.
point, I was playing Fallout 4, and I was kind of liking it. And there was a point where I decided I don't fucking like this anymore. I think this game sucks, and I'm done. Fallout 4.
Yeah, for me that was like 30 minutes in.
For me, I liked it well enough for a handful of hours, and I kept playing it, and then eventually was just like, fuck this, I don't like this, I'm done. I can't be certain, but I think that Outer Worlds is maybe worse than Fallout 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, to me, it actually seemed like I liked it more than Fallout 4. Like, I did not have a negative reaction to the Outer Worlds. It just didn't excite me. But the thing is, I feel like I might be growing out of this genre somehow because, like, I have not gone back to Fallout New Vegas, but like I said, totally bounced off of Fallout 4. There were some more specific reasons for that I don't have to get into. But, like, I've gone back to, like, Oblivion and Skyrim, two games that I really liked at the time. Totally bounced off them, didn't want to play them. I have no interest in going back to Fallout 3. Maybe this genre's not for me anymore for some reason, or maybe I'm like, my brain wants to take a break from it. I don't know.
I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of Obsidian's work. I like them as a developer.
Yeah, like, what I wanted to say was...
two of my favorite games of all time, Obsidian games. KOTOR 2, Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
I haven't played Fallout New Vegas in a few years. I think I would still probably like Fallout New Vegas.
I bet I would still probably like it.
Here's the thing. Fallout New Vegas has more memorable characters than Outer Worlds has characters.
Dang.
That's an exaggeration. But, like, okay. So, this is just sort of like a proof of concept. The concept being that this game is overextended. It's paper thin. You get to the end of this game. No spoilers, but you get to the end of this game. Imagine you beat the final boss, and then like the second you beat the final boss, it's like an epilogue, like a fucking Breakfast Club style epilogue where it's like he went on to be a fry cook or whatever fucking, like, that's literally.
But that was like Fallout 3 in New Vegas, right? Didn't they do that?
There was no sense of finality, because at the very end the guy's like, we've got all this work to do, let's go, and then it's like, end of game. Game ends. Like, the big bad, he didn't even talk to me. He just started shooting, and I killed him in one shot.
Huh.
Yeah, it was crazy. Also, I had a character glitch out. I missed a companion for about 20 hours of gameplay because he glitched out, and I had to go like find him because he's supposed to path into where you have to go and then like stop you and be like, I want to join your ship. I'm supposed to be your second companion. And I totally it didn't happen. So like at the end, they're like, you know, we're in a video game, and just so you know, this is the final level. If you've got any shit you need to get done, like maybe you should take care of it now. This is, you know, this urgent mission can wait until you deliver the last couple things. And there was an empty fucking chair, And I was like, wait, this is the last mission? I get this empty... there's a companion that I didn't have? So I had to look up who it was, go to where he hangs out, and talk to him. And he's like, gee, I sure would love to join your crew.
I mean, is that a big problem that you missed a companion?
There's only 5 companions. That's 20% of the companion characters.
But I mean...
Which is also... The companion quests are like 70% of the whole content of the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say maybe... So I didn't get to any companions. Maybe the part I'm missing is I've heard them compared more to like your party members in Mass Effect, which is way more substantial than, say, what your party members were in like Fallout New Vegas, which was just like NPCs that followed you around and shot things.
Yeah, I never even had a companion.
I also didn't. So do you... So... I'll say some of my experience. Immediately, I really liked the character creator, because what you did was... So I got really scared because I saw all the sliders. And I don't like character creators that have lots of sliders because it just allows me to accidentally make a monster person. But what this did was instead you would pick one of like 20 presets, and then the sliders were extremely granular changes. So that like you could adjust the nose width, but you could not adjust it beyond reasonable nose width for like the preset that you chose, basically. So I ended up feeling like I got a character that I created, but that like was guided enough that I made a person that looked like a good looking person. And I was like, this is dope.
I had the exact opposite experience where I didn't like any of the presets and I wasn't able to change it using the sliders. And then I had I wouldn't call this a glitch. I would call it a glaring oversight where my controller ran out of batteries during the opening cutscene, and it did. And 2 things happened. 1, it didn't pause the cutscene, but what it did do was overlay a giant "please reconnect" controller thing. So I couldn't do. So I missed the opening cutscene, and so I had to restart the game and redo my create a character.
That blows.
Yeah, it fucking blowed.
You probably could have just like hit the power button on the console, and it probably would have like went to sleep mid cutscene. But I mean, it's like
maybe
still it sucks that happened.
Yeah,
though. Like it's not. Yeah.
Anyway, so but there's lots of things where it's like, I feel like there's so much talking in the game, and my characters are there, and every once in a while they'll chime in with something, like the way that I want a companion character to do. But it felt like everything was stacked to when they first showed up. And so after the first couple of times that they had like written in interjections for these characters, they were just like silent. Like one of the famous, at this point, things that happens in the game, like the first big decision that you have to make. I don't know how much you've heard about this first big decision that you have to make.
I do not believe I've heard about this first big decision you have to make.
Spoilers?
How far in? How many hours would you guess?
90 minutes, maybe 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So
I'm probably. You know what? I saved my game and shut it off as I was riding an elevator up to speak to a person who's important. I probably like literally right before this moment.
You're half a second away from meeting the first companion. And then the conclusion of the quest that they send you on is what is the decision I'm talking about. So this town that you've been in, Edgewater.
Oh, it's that there's a unexploded nuclear bomb in the middle of the town, and you have to decide if you want to blow up everyone in the town in a nuclear fire.
No.
Or not blow up everyone in the town in a nuclear fire.
No.
Okay.
So I actually think this first quest illustrates my 2 biggest problems with the game. So you meet Tobson. I think his name's Tobson. He's the like boss of the town. He's the whole town's boss. He's in charge of the canning factory, and he's a piece of shit.
But
he's a total like fucking like cartoon twirly mustache like capitalist piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's running his workers into the ground. He's killing people.
And this is a theme that seems to run through the whole game.
Right. He's killing people. He's not providing medicine based on, just his whims. He's just like deciding who lives and who dies. And being such a horrible tyrant that people are deserting the town and they're going to live in this deserter community that people have created. And so, you wake up, you wake up and the doctor is like, go to this planet and meet the guy, and he crushed the guy, and you're like, well, take his ship, but his ship doesn't work. So they're like, you should, find a power converter or whatever. Go to Tachi Station. Yeah. And so basically Thompson is like, those deserters, they're leeching power from us. So if you go to the power station, there's 2 power converters there. If you disconnect the power to the deserters, you can go tell them to come back to here and keep working. And I'll tell them I'm sorry for how bad I was. But you can have the extra converter in the power station. And then you go talk to the deserters, and they're like, yeah, that guy's a monster. We don't want to go back there. He killed my kid. And so fuck him and fuck that town. How about you disconnect their power and take the converter? And we'll accept some of the townspeople in here, not the capitalists. They can't come, but the townsfolk can come and stay here when you shut off the town's power. And I was like, well, I like everybody in this town, and the other town is a capitalist nightmare, and people are dying there anyway.
It is a cartoonish.
It's literally
capitalism.
cartoonish.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also have a full-ass town with houses and walls, and a big wall surrounding the town. Right. So I'm like, this seems like safe, regardless of whether they have power or not.
Yeah.
And so I go to shut off the town's power, and I think this is what everyone was doing, pretty much. Everyone was going.
I hadn't heard this explained verbatim the way you're doing, but I've heard, I think, vague allusions to people's reactions to this, and I was not enthused by them.
Right. So, Parvati, your companion, she goes, listen. She's all folksy or whatever. Listen. Y'all want to shut off power to my town.
Hey, listen. Y'all want to shut off power to this town? But you know what? People live in this town.
Pretty much, you're like, hey, listen, it's not, you don't shut off power to the town. These people, they didn't ask for these conditions. Shutting off the power, it's the only thing it's going to do is make things worse for people's lives there. Yeah. It's not their fault. And my immediate reaction was, literally that same thing is true of the deserters. The game does not give you a third option. Yeah. So it's either do that thing to you, I made a joke on Twitter, like, please don't kill my friends. Aren't you biased? But it's true. She knows the people, she technically knows the deserters too, but she's like, she wants you to shut off power to the deserters because she wants the town that she lives in to not get its power shut off.
Yeah.
But the same is fucking true if your companion was from the deserters, they would say the same fucking thing.
Right.
So it cancels each other out. It is of her speech is of no consequence. Mm-hmm. Nothing that she has to say is not also true of the deserter town. What is true, though, is that no matter what anybody says, the town has walls and the deserters don't have walls. The reason you want walls is because anybody that doesn't
because bandits.
Well, yeah. Well, they're marauders, and they're psycho, senseless, unemployed monsters. They're not even people. There is no point in the game where you can talk to a marauder. There is a point in the game pretty early on where you can talk to someone who is friends with the marauders, and according to her, they're actually fine. But the game does not forget about that. Don't worry, just shoot them on sight. So you shut off the power, and she has nothing to say about it. You just did the thing that she begged you not to do, and she says nothing about it. She never has any more comments about what's happening, and it's like you repeat that on every fucking planet. Like you go to Monarch and you meet I think her name is Naoka. She's a cool enough character. I like her as a character, but like you're basically deciding you're deciding the fate of this whole fucking planet, and she never has anything to say about what's going on at all. Nothing. You meet her in the bar and she like tells you like, yeah, those are the iconoclasts. They're like a pseudo-religious, radical defectors who want to take down the corporations. I was like, that sounds okay. And he's like, and this is the corporate guy. He wants to try to get back in the board's good graces by reforming everything. And then that's basically all she has to say about the whole world. When you decide that one of these sides should wage war against the other side and then help them massacre the soldiers for the entire other side, no comment. But so that's like the first problem. The other problem that that first choice illustrates is how totally hollow the politics are. This isn't like a lot of the press that video games have gotten in the last couple years has been people making explicitly political games, usually violently political, in favor of like a U.S. hegemonic status quo.
I've never heard of any game like that.
And Ubisoft is glad. And people like Ubisoft or people like Ken Levine or whatever being like, no, it's not political. That's just like the plot of the game. We're just using, this isn't a game like that. The game is explicitly political. But the problem is the politics of the game are masquerading as it's you versus the corporate board. But at every point, anytime they give you someone else who is anti-board, they are eventually portrayed as cynical liars or crazy or in some other way unfit to be radical. And the like quote unquote right choice is always like the guy who wants to change things but not too much.
Right. Yeah, like so I'll say immediately like
wait, sorry, one more point to button this is like in that first choice, if you choose to give power to the deserters, eventually it's revealed that the leader of the deserters, Adelaide, first of all, they try to paint her son was basically murdered by the head guy. And so they try to paint her as she's not in this for the deserters, she just wants to fuck over the town. And it's like, yeah, damn right she wants to fuck over the town.
Yeah.
They killed her kid. The way that town works is killing kids.
Right.
So they're like, so they try to paint her as like too mean to be radical. I don't know what it's very confusing.
Yeah, it's like she's radical for the wrong reason.
Right, exactly. And they do that with anybody. There's actually a character in the game who's a rich girl who quits being a surgeon in the the rich people colony to basically LARP as a pirate, and she just like explicitly says at some point that like these people don't have ideologies. They're just liars. And when you do meet someone, the 1 in 1,000 person that does mean what they say, they're fucking nuts. And so they're even more dangerous. And that's like the actual ideology of the game, whether they meant it or not. Anyway, sorry. Adelaide, the leader of the deserters, they basically show like, oh, she didn't even accept anybody from the town, or very few people. She just let the whole town starve to death. And it's like, that's the game's fault. The writers did that.
Yeah.
Adelaide didn't do that. But if you cooperate with the town, you can orchestrate it so that you kick out the bad guy, bring in Adelaide, and she becomes the de facto ruler of everyone, and the town is saved, and the bad guy's gone. But they don't telegraph that as even a possibility.
Oh, weird.
So they at every turn they just like bend over backwards to make like the medium good choice, the good thing, and the actual effective change choice be too far or cynical or crazy.
Yeah. So,
There's a lot of info.
Yeah. So I know I get what they're doing. And what they're trying to do, they're trying to introduce moral complexity by having things like presenting a choice and then having the one that seems worse end up being slightly better. You know, they're doing that thing like, oh, the outcome wasn't what you thought it was going to be, or something like that. But it's like when you keep... I've seen this from like a lot of games, and like the biggest one I can think of is BioShock Infinite, where they try to do the thing where they try to introduce moral complexity by saying, oh, the good guys are also bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like, so what I was saying before about hearing vague allusions. Actually, would you mind closing that?
Yeah.
Thanks. So I heard people, I think, talk around this power converter plot point thing. And what they said was like, something like, oh, you know, and then they kind of explain how doing this good thing is also going to be really hard for the people in the town, you know, because like they don't have anywhere else to go and they won't have anything left. You know, so it's like really complex, and that really bristled me because that is exactly the kind of apologetics people use all the time in real life to prop up capitalism and shit like that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, because the thing is,
The twist is they're trying to make a plot twist, but the twist is actually like everything in real life that is like things actually are as they seem. Like,
well, I think for me,
the people who say they're trying to help are actually trying to help. It's the people who want to change things that are actually rattling cages. You thought that the people that wanted to change actually wanted to change, but really they just are assholes.
And my read on that, again, I haven't played the game, but this sort of like thing in general, like when this comes up, because stuff like this did come up in Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like I said, they're trying to like introduce like supposed like moral complexity by having good people who seem good actually be bad, and people who seem bad maybe not be all bad, which sucks. Because the thing is, like,
there is a way to do that works. There is a way to have complicated characters where it makes sense and doesn't fucking suck.
Yes.
Sorry.
Like what I'm saying is, like in real life, these kinds of things do come up. Like sometimes things that will be positive changes in the long run or positive changes for the majority of people do sometimes inadvertently hurt people. But and so that is why the world is difficult. It's hard. It's hard to figure out what is the right thing to do sometimes. But when you try to translate that in, but like that's not what that sounds like in the game. It's not like it might be a difficult choice to cut off power for some people, but also it's sort of an artificial choice because it's giving you one or the other. Like cut off their power or cut off their power. It's like, how about cut off nobody's power and like shoot this guy in the face or something?
Fundamentally, what the game is asking you to do is destroy a group of people's lives based on that the game needs you to power up this ship, and decided the only way to power up this ship is to cut off power to one of these two groups of people.
Right.
That is how the game is written.
Right. The ship that isn't yours.
Right. You killed the owner.
That you're
based on information from a guy you don't know.
And yeah, a guy you don't know. You're working for him for some reason.
He woke you up out of cryo sleep
to maybe save the other people in cryo sleep so that they can come to this corporate hell.
Yeah.
I will say though about like the corporate hell stuff.
It is, by the way, this game is as bleak or bleaker than Death Stranding. People are eating bugs. People are starving to death. Like this whole game is sort of the BB thing where you're like, I don't think they realized how bleak this was. But the whole game is just incredible corporate nightmare. And to look at the reality that they have made, and then to watch them like continually subvert what I feel is at every turn what I thought was the right thing to do. The game goes like, haha, but actually you went too far.
Right.
And it's like, people are fucking dying. They can't leave the cities. They're being torn apart by monsters and marauders, which that's a whole other can of fucking worms. And they're starving to death and they're eating bugs. Like, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah. It's really bleak. So from the jump, at first I really liked it because, I was reading like not character classes, but like when you're creating the character, you have, you are right. You choose like your job history, like what are you trained in, and it's all this like really, it's all this like, humorously bleak, capitalist nightmare stuff. Where it's assigning great importance to like these mindless, tedious jobs. Like you might be an elevator technician, and it's like you believe firmly that elevators shouldn't just go up but also down, and like and one after another all the time. Or like you like a dirt farmer, it was like listen, people need food, and food needs worms, and worms need dirt. Like that. It's all this really like, it was well written and really funny, and I really liked it. Like I went through and read each description, which I usually just totally gloss over that kind of stuff.
Where were these descriptions written?
These were in the character creator when you were picking like your like professional aptitude or something like that.
I read most of those.
And because immediately it read to me like the kind of stuff Fallout totally wasn't doing. Like if you look at Fallout, it is this, like corporate hell is kind of a big part of Fallout because of Vault Tech and all this stuff. But and Fallout is trying to be funny about it, but it doesn't seem to really know what's funny about it and what's bleak about it.
Part of the Fallout thing is that like Vault-Tech's gone. All those corporations are gone. Like this is so like what you're reading, you're usually reading like a bleak, a funny, sarcastic-y written like corporate memo that is supposed to like show you how bleak it was to work for a corporation.
Yeah, isn't it like funny but also sad how excited and boastful they were about ruining everything?
Right.
But
and
then like also you're supposed to think it's great, or it's like, but that's also Bethesda problem. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of experience with the earlier Fallouts, but my impression is like Fallout New Vegas being a minor exception, because Fallout New Vegas is also not super political, or it's not like super active about how it is political. My impression is that the earlier Fallout games were all better about that stuff and much more intentional about that stuff. And so part of Bethesda's problem, which is exemplified in Fallout 76, is like taking legitimate criticisms of America and capitalism and turning them into pastiche that they can use to like sell 1 million copies of a game that sucks. And one of the biggest problems with Outer Worlds is that I feel like it's doing the same thing. It's knowing that people are desperate for any sort of game that explicitly has politics, and those politics be at least vaguely okay. It's like, wow, in this game, capitalism's bad, and the corporations are bad. And it's like, okay, yeah, they're made up, cartoony, totally fake-ass, way exaggerated version of capitalism is bad. Like, you don't need to exaggerate capitalism to make it bad. It's fundamentally bad.
Yeah.
There doesn't have to be, like, capitalism run rampant. Capitalism is already rampant.
Well, no, but I actually think the little of that I saw, again, I only really got to like small written logs and stuff, but it did actually seem really smart because it was exaggerated, but only enough so that it was cartoonish compared to where we are, but seemed darkly possible. So like I read this one note that was like, I was talking about sick time. It was like this canning factory, and it was like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah, I read that.
hey everybody, just remember, I think it's like, it's flu season or whatever. We have a lot of bugs going around, so remember, if you need any sick time, you gotta put in your request, 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, and don't forget, the company needs to be compensated for the lost profits that they'll be losing from your absence. And if you can't pay for it, we'd be happy to set up a wage docking plan
basically
for you.
a payment plan so you can pay for your own sick time.
And it was just like, I actually really loved. I kind of loved it because it was funny and also really dark because it feels so possible.
Yeah.
To the point where I kind of didn't want to play the game anymore, but not because I thought that stuff was bad, just because it made me feel too depressed about real life.
Yeah, some of that stuff is good. The problem comes when, like, a lot of that flavor stuff is okay, and I guess I'm kind of fundamentally more interested in something that is showing how horrible the world is on its own. So like because you don't have as much experience with the game, you said like an hour or something. Like what you see as it portraying something darkly possible, I see as them being like, wouldn't it be bad if things got there? Like, we've got to be careful.
Right, yeah.
Or it'll get bad.
Yeah, like, I guess the thing is, like, when you create a world that is so steeped in the actual real problems that we have in the real world, you then have to, like, you have to confront that, and you have to not, like... like we talked about, you can't then try to layer on moral complexity on top of cartoonish versions of real life tragedy.
Right.
Like
that's the thing. It's like even in this totally cartoonish nightmare version of modern day capitalism, like we're talking about, this colony is based on literal slavery. These people are all actual slaves.
Yes.
Not just, they are receiving wages, but they're not wage slaves. This is like chattel slavery.
Pretty much.
Yeah. They are permanent indentured servants.
Yeah.
I guess it's sort of halfway between the like wage slavery and actual slavery. So even in this version of capitalism, even then, the thing that you've got to do is work with the guy who wants to try and reform the board, not with the guy who wants to destroy the board. Like, and I think it's worth asking yourself and other people, like, think of America now. And, the founding myth of, like, America thought, the early America, the founding fathers, things were unjust. Taxation without representation, and so we started a war. And we started a war. We were killing people to create a new country where we could be free. And start thinking about, like, okay, where's the line? Like, where is the line where it goes from not okay to pick up a gun and start shooting and killing people in order to start a new version of government? And this is a game that at the same time wants you to solve all your problems with a gun, unless it's like to kill the like leaders of the like power centers of this horrible nightmare world.
Yeah, it sounds to me like I think you kind of touched on this a moment ago. It's sort of like they are taking this version of reality that feels really reflective of the real world, but then they, like you said, they're treating it like it is a cartoonish impossibility, and then using that as an excuse to not address it, and instead just try to make up its own moral complexity out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like when you are creating a world where the bad things in the world are the same bad things we have in real life, you have to find something to say about that.
Yeah.
You can't just go, haha, wouldn't it be so fucked up if like corporations ruled everybody's lives? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like the other half of the point that I was trying to make too, which is like the writers of this game, even in this version of reality, the writers of the game could not imagine a version of the world where the people who wanted to lead a violent revolution had the moral high ground.
Yeah.
Like, and that's crazy to me. Like we were talking in the Nightmare Barn. I don't think it was recorded, but we were talking about. I was listening to the Revolutions podcast, and it was the guy that you know from the History of Rome podcast,
Mike Duncan.
Mike Duncan, right? And I don't like that podcast for a lot of reasons. Although
You did recommend it to me, though.
I did recommend it. I do recommend it. I do not like it. I do not like
Death
it because
Stranding. The opposite of Death Stranding.
It's Mike Duncan. At least I've heard he gets better, but he is a real ass liberal in that
classical liberal.
I don't want to use that word.
No, you're right. Actually,
he is someone that could be convinced that a constitutional monarchy, like with a fully empowered king, balanced with a parliament, not like a figurehead monarchy, but like a real-ass constitutional monarchy, he could be convinced that with the right king, that's fine. Like, that's the kind of guy that Mike Duncan is in the early parts of that.
Yeah, and I think
at least.
I think the sad part is that's most people.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think a lot of people have like about kings and queens, but like he's a fucking historian. He went to school for this shit.
I think they don't.
What? You don't think so?
The more that I listen to people, I feel like I think people mostly do share that view of like, well, kings and queens could be good, but they went too far.
Well, I think the bait and switch is like. It's like this trifecta, or not trifecta. It's like this triangle. It's not a trifecta. It's this triangle of idolizing the British royalty for some reason. I'm talking about America specifically, but like having this weird obsession with the British monarchy, with the royalty there as like these celebrities, but also like thinking that kings and queens are like this totally outmoded dictatorial thing, but then also not seeing the parallels between just like American democracy and old school like congressional constitutional monarchy. But I also do think you're right. I do think that people are like, yeah, I mean, if it's a good king,
yeah, if it's a good king.
But the thing about that podcast,
like, sorry, not to interrupt you, but like that exact thing was in like the History of Rome podcast I talked to you about, where like I believe it was Hadrian, the Emperor of Rome, Hadrian. Mike Duncan talks about that guy and talks about all the like pretty decent stuff he did, and was kind of like, this is like one of my favorite emperors. He was like, he did this interesting stuff. He doesn't go as far as to say that he was like a good person or anything, but then like at the end, and I'm not 100% sure that this was Hadrian, but I believe it was, like right at the end of talking about Hadrian, he's like, oh, by the way, the Jews kept revolting in Rome, so he basically committed a Jewish genocide and like decimated their population. Then named
classic Mike Duncan.
Then named the land Palestine intentionally after the Philistines, the ancient biblical enemy of the Jews, just as a fuck you to the Jews. And then for generations after that, Jews in Rome, anytime they mentioned Hadrian's name, would follow it with "May his bones be crushed." And it's just like,
dope phrase.
That's dope. But like, yo, you're just tagging that on at the end of Hadrian, right?
Yeah. And he did the same thing in the English, his coverage of the English Revolution. He was like, this guy Cromwell, who I basically don't think is basically I think that he gets a bad rap as a military dictator.
This is
Oliver Cromwell. This is the English Civil War.
This guy fucking sucks so bad.
Oliver Cromwell?
Yeah.
So
I just learned about this guy recently.
Okay, so he was a dictator. He was a military dictator. That's just what he was.
Yeah.
And Mike Duncan, his thing was he got a huge boner from saying But he kept trying to make Parliament work, which is true.
Not true. Didn't he dissolve Parliament?
He did all Parliament, a bunch of, but it's because they kept
because it couldn't work.
It's because they kept wanting to. The Parliament kept wanting to give themselves too much power and not share it with like another house or something like that. So the Parliament was like obstructing itself, and so he's like, "Well, fuck all you guys, you're done, and we're gonna get a new set of Parliament in here." And he did that like 3 times, which is like. You could make an argument that he was or wasn't like doing the right thing, but to say that means that he wasn't a military dictator is totally missing the point of what a dictator is. And then the button on that is he committed genocide in Ireland, which basically got as much coverage in the podcast as I gave it here just now. Oliver Cromwell, side note, he did commit genocide in Ireland. So my point is, like, listening to what happened in the past shows you, in pre-capitalist eras, people will fucking chop off a king's head like that. The American Revolution was fought because they were charging too much for tea and for stamps. Like, it's crazy. Can you imagine how many revolutions America would have gone through if the standards for what calls for a revolution had stayed the same? It's crazy. And sorry, not just stamps. It was called the Stamp Act, but it was all paper. All paper was a little more expensive. But Parliament didn't have the right to tax them because they weren't being represented. So let's go kill them.
I mean, they're not wrong about that. Keith,
so I guess what I'm saying is, like,
Keith, they were asking people to let British soldiers live in their houses.
I guess what I'm saying is Fifth Amendment. Wait, no, not Fifth Amendment. Sixth Amendment?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
It's one of them.
I don't know. I don't know the. Sorry. Sue me. I don't know the order of the bill. The Bill of Rights.
No.
Yeah, I don't know the order.
Keith, the first one, freedom of speech. Second one, right to bear arms. And then there's like
Third
a bunch
one,
of other
I think,
ones.
is freedom of religion. Fifth one is the right to not self-incriminate.
Fifth one. Well, yeah, that's the fifth one.
Yeah.
Sixth is. I know the sixth is right to a speedy trial because we did an assignment where everyone got assigned an amendment, and mine was the sixth one.
Which, by the way, is maybe the most infringed upon right in the country. Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is like by the standards of modern capitalism and the ways that capitalism indoctrinates itself against revolution, even the outer world's world is not worthy of a violent revolution having the moral high ground. Versus just a couple hundred years ago, a revolution had the moral high ground almost by default. There was almost nothing you could do to not warrant a violent revolution.
Yeah, but also, like, for a while there, weren't most of these revolutions just to install new kings, though? Like, until people got smart or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so I think about the this might seem like a 180 on what we were just talking about, but it's like the modes in which capitalism and American democracy have dominion over people's lives is way greater than the modes in which kings had dominion over people's lives in like the 1800s. In a lot, like is a lot different.
Do you have examples?
Yeah, working far less hours, nobody actually telling you what to do, really. There was imagine a world where there was no such thing as a bathroom break, Because, yeah, of course you can just fucking go to the bathroom. Like, obviously there's a lot of exceptions to this. Like, there was tons of colonialism and there was slavery. But, like,
Hey, Mike Duncan's on the podcast.
Yeah. But it's like, so, kings are fundamentally bad. But the difference was there wasn't the technology that existed in order to capitalize on, like
an interesting choice of words.
There wasn't the technology that existed to, like, dominate people's lives in the same way.
And that's why, like, I think people get hung up on the worst stories about working conditions in, like, the early 20th century. Like, how bad, like people not getting bathroom breaks, like people getting locked in factory floors and then burning to death in fires.
Yeah,
and
the Industrial Revolution lined up with capitalism is basically the start of all these fucking horrible things happening.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, I think people think, oh, well, we're not like that anymore, so things are better and things are as good as they've ever been.
Damn,
which is not really true, because we're just forgetting the stuff that came before.
You just did an Animal Farm.
Yeah. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally...
Yeah. And not really related to what you're talking about so much. Well, I guess it sort of is. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Such a good line.
Yeah, it's a great
line.
line.
An eternal line.
Yeah. That's, honestly, that's a little bit of a Fallout-y Outer World line.
Kinda, yeah.
It has a similar sort of, like...
I think I just realized how often I think about that line.
Yeah?
It's like all the time.
What was I gonna say? So... okay. So there's a Chinese...
Oh, sorry. We have been circling the same talking points on the Outer Worlds for like 45 minutes, and we should move on.
Okay.
But if you've got something else to say.
There's a saying, there's a Chinese saying that I really like. It has a couple meanings. But the saying is, the mountains are high and the emperor is far away.
Nice.
It's a great saying.
Yeah.
It basically means like we can get up to some shit because no one's looking.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's used in the context of, like, local corruption, like local officials can, take some bribes because the emperor will never find out. He's so far away. But
the local count can just be a vampire.
It's against the rules, but who's watching? but I think that's, like, broadly applicable to the way that...
What a fucking dope-ass video game podcast we put on.
Yeah, this is great.
Damn.
This is great.
Where are our subscribers?
Yeah, right? So I feel like this phrase is super applicable, I think, to the way that capitalism has changed people's lives. Like, we now live in a world where, with all the horrors of the past... we now live in a world where the mountains are not high, the emperor is not far away.
Yeah.
They are all over the place in cameras, in cop cars. They're your boss at work. They're your nosy fucking neighbors. Like, there isn't an escape from it anymore. There's nowhere you can go.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no fucking where you can go to not have eyes on you. And, like, the living in 2019 is so fundamentally unfree that playing a game where capitalism has literally reinstitutionalized slavery and everyone is starving and everyone is dying and it's full of marauders and the corporations got addicted to drugs and they're on dangerous planets. And just everyone is miserable and scared all the time. And, like, the game at the same time is condescending to those people to whom it never occurred to be against the corporations. But also it's telling you better not be too against them or that would be mean. And it's like, it is such a miserable experience to play this game. And that is...
Yeah.
It is such a fucking piece of shit.
that you played all of.
That I did play off. Oh, at some point it was like a rage thing. Like I was so mad at how like everyone was like, "This game is really good," or "It's at least okay." It was so disheartening to play that I couldn't help but finish it in a rage.
That sucks.
Yeah.
The last quick thing I'll throw in about Outer Worlds was I think kind of what got me to decide not to go back to it wasn't really any of this thematic stuff, but it was...
well, yeah, you hadn't even gotten there.
I hadn't even gotten there. It was hearing Austin on Waypoint just talk about how the smaller size of the game just kind of felt like it reduced the possibility space, which is probably what I'm interested in wandering around and finding stuff, or more to the point...
Yeah, there's none of that. There's nothing. This game's empty.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very
Politics
small.
aside, the shooting isn't fun. It's not fun to, like... And that's the only thing you do in this game, by the way, is shoot and, like, pick which thing you say. Like, the picking which thing you say sucks, and the shooting sucks, and there's nothing to do. No one says anything. There's nothing to see. Sorry.
Okay.
I fucking hated this game.
I can tell. To some extent, like Fallout New Vegas, it feels so good because there's a very light. The main thrust of that game, like the story through line that you're following, it's very light. There's not a lot to it. It's not something urgent. You're just kind of doing it, and you're mostly wandering around and seeing what you find, and that's what I really love. And even though a game like Fallout New Vegas, what makes it so good is it's kind of an illusion. Like, it's really just funneling you towards stuff, and it feels like you're discovering it.
Yeah.
Or
well, the faction system was legitimately compelling at the time.
What was
the faction system?
Yeah,
where it was the first time, at least I remember playing a game where. And I'm sure that it had been in other games. I just hadn't played them. It might be even like an older school thing that had been abandoned for a long time. Whereas, like, it's not just that like a group likes you, but I think also that like by making one group like you, it makes their enemy group dislike you.
Right? Yeah.
And by the way, Outer Worlds is a game where a group can both fully like you and fully dislike you at the same time.
Cool.
And no group has any impact on any other group. I think.
I just want to say it's like that, like, sometimes when a game is bigger and more open like that, it leads to me liking the things that I find more than I normally would, because it feels like I'm discovering them. It's almost like this false choice. It's like this idea that the fact that you could miss something is what makes it special because you didn't miss it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The Breath of the Wild thing. We talked about this a lot with
exactly,
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. And then, but in the Outer Worlds, you kind of can't miss anything except for that one companion you missed.
Yeah, which was a bug. By the way, if anybody was listening, there is a way to miss that character, I think, and it's if you don't talk to him. Like, he's being berated by some cops because he beat up his boss, which is sick. He beat up his boss, so he's being interrogated by some cops, and you can talk to him and side with him. And then later on, that's when he wants to join you. And I did that. I talked to him. I didn't miss it. I didn't ignore him. And so that's why I did it. It's just like totally glitched out.
How long have we been going for?
4 hours.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I'm done on Outer Worlds. I feel like I've illustrated my disdain for it. You know.
You certainly have.
It was occasionally totally fine to play. Every once in a while, it was okay to shoot people.
I'm calling it. We're done talking about the Outer Worlds. We should real quick, I think, brainstorm what we have to talk about. And if it's a couple things, we should just talk about them and end the podcast. If it's a lot of things, we could consider ending this one and starting a new podcast right after.
I want to talk about Disco Elysium, but I don't want to spoil literally anything about that game for you. But I would kind of like it to be on the same podcast as Outer Worlds, because I played them back to back, and I saw a lot of coverage of these games be back to back, and they do have some things that they do that overlap. I think there's a possibility that I would have liked Outer Worlds slightly more if I hadn't just played and finished Disco Elysium right before. Which is a game that is much more honest about its politics, I think.
It's like Game of Combat.
No combat.
Okay, that's what I thought you said, but then when I learned that you're a cop, I'm like, combat, though?
It's the cop stuff is a little weird. This is the game probably written by some communists or at least some leftists. I don't know. They could have been anarchists. It seemed like the one group of people that they didn't despise. This is a game where you try to figure out what cop you are.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're doing that podcast like tomorrow with Andy.
Andy?
So if we have a few things to talk about, maybe we can do that then. Because I just realized I was like, don't I have a small list of discussion topics? And I pulled it up and it was like Blizzard, Evil Empire, and I'm like, oh god, like we can't. I have nothing left in my tank. We cannot talk about these things right now.
Plot twist. What if this already is the second podcast?
Holy shit. My
My tank's full.
tank is not.
I could go for 8 hours more.
Well, I feel like I could go for 4 more hours if we took a break, but what about the videos we were supposed to make today?
We're still gonna.
Can we... We're doing a podcast tomorrow. Let's just save that
Are we,
stuff.
though?
Yeah.
Andy's gonna be there.
Whatever.
Probably. What are the actual chances?
You know what?
Honestly, so here's the thing. Kylie wanted to do this thing with Andy because it's
the
our
10th
10th anniversary of Complex
Rockets.
Rockets. And I said, Complex Rockets isn't a thing. You're the president of jack shit.
See, that's not true. Because to say that Complex Rockets is a different thing from Run Button is really not true because it was just a name change. We just took a 2-month break.
But it was a name change and a feed change. Podcast, totally different podcast feed, and nobody that's a fan of Run Button, even from the very beginning of Run Button, listened to Complex Rockets.
But that doesn't mean anything. Like, if we had a store, and then we closed the store and moved it across town, and so it was the same people working in the same store selling the same stuff, but different people walked into the store at a different location. It's not like a totally different store. You wouldn't be like, you can't have an anniversary for the opening of the first store because this is a totally different store. It's like, no, we just moved locations.
I don't know. To me, it feels like, you know that what's the guy with the boat and he replaces a piece of the boat?
Ship of Theseus.
Ship of Theseus. It's sort of like, instead of Ship of Theseus, where you replace the boat bit by bit until all of the pieces are distinct from the original pieces, is that still the same boat? This is like, if you have a boat and then you buy a different boat, is that the same boat?
That's not at all what it's like.
Or if you replace all of the parts at the same time.
It's like, what if you took a boat and didn't replace any of the pieces, but like you kept the captain and changed some of the crew and then moved it to a different port? Is it the same ship?
And also changed the name.
Oh my god. Okay. The only reason we changed the name was because we had an objectively terrible name. Like, it wasn't even like Andy. The first ever Run Button thing was a podcast with me and Andy and not you. So it's not even like it's not like Andy wasn't even ever a member of Run Button, because technically he was.
Technically.
Yeah. Listen, this is my point. It's not a celebration. The 10th anniversary thing, it's more about the fact that we have been doing this for 10 years.
Okay.
Whether or not we introduced videos 2 years in and that became the main thing that we do, I don't feel is really
I wasn't even factoring in the videos.
It's just, the same people doing the same thing for one contiguous amount of time. And that amount of time is 10 years. That's a big deal. 10 special years.
I agree. I guess
Complex Rockets. That's a deep cut for anybody who went on the Patreon. By the way, on the Patreon available is the Complex Rockets archive, our old podcast we did when we were
still do
problematic teens. Well, here's the thing. If you want to hear it, go get it now, because I'm taking it down in like a week. That shit is going away.
At your own risk.
At your own risk.
It's better than we're making it sound, but I still don't want you to listen to it.
The only reason I say it is because we have fans, and they like us, and I know that when you're a fan of something, you want to see all the stuff, especially the early stuff, and I know that we have fans that listened to that stuff and liked it a lot. And even though that makes me side-eye them because I'm pretty sure those podcasts are full of bad and problematic stuff.
Yeah.
Probably.
Although it's not like the run button main videos aren't either.
Yeah.
I download them and bleep stuff out and re-upload them if YouTube allowed it, but they don't.
Well, they do just as a new video.
Right.
There is actually one specific thing that I keep meaning to download and cut out and then re-upload. But we've never gotten any complaints about it, and that almost makes me suspicious of our fans. It's like, really? No one has called us out on this. Okay.
What is it?
I'm not going to say.
Damn.
Because obviously, if I don't want it to be up there, I'm not going to say what it is.
All right. Was it me or you or both of us?
It was me.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like...
I have one that I can think of that is both of us.
All the worst stuff that I regret saying, it's always stuff where it's like, I know that I shouldn't say it, and I know that it's bad to say, but I say it anyways and kind of give myself a pass on maybe the idea of like, most people will think this is borderline, even though I know it's not right to say. You know, it's like I'm going to say this because it's borderline. And it's like, first of all, if something's borderline, don't say it. And second of all, you knew that it was not actually borderline and should not have said it at all. You know?
Mm-hmm. Sleepy cat. He's so sleepy. He's been sleeping on this jacket the whole time.
Sleepy Jack and Sleepy Boy.
Anyway, we'll talk. I guess we'll talk about Disco Elysium more a different time. I don't think it's perfect. There's a couple big things that I don't like about it, but it is two things, which is very honest about what it's doing. I think, although it's definitely a game that lets you play as like
a piece of shit,
a total piece of shit. I mean, they literally the game uses the word fascist for it. You can be a fascist in this game.
Cool.
I am pretty sure my impression of the rest of the game is that if you choose to be a fascist, things will not go well for you. This is not a game that's
so it's not reflecting real life. A real life where being a fascist is totally fine, apparently.
Well, so you start off the game in a worse state than anybody could possibly be in. You start off. You have done so many drugs and drunk so much alcohol that you have totally obliterated your memory of yourself and the world around you.
Okay.
The what?
I think that sucks.
Why?
Because
let's hear why.
Because it's just a new way to do the amnesiac protagonist thing, which is wicked tired and it sucks on its own. And it's just kind of weird because that's not a real thing.
No, it's different. It's so the amnesiac thing works because it's amnesia in a different way. It is like a fun. It's kind of the Death Stranding thing that we were talking about, where it's like they're just like throwing things at you, and you're like, how do I place myself in this world full of terms that people are using that I don't understand? Mm-hmm. This is that because it's like. It is about not knowing who you are and needing to figure it out, but it's equally about, like, I don't even know the world I'm in. I don't know what money is anymore.
Your character literally has to learn what, like, the concept of money?
Yeah, and you have a skill for that. It's called conceptualization.
That's pretty cool.
So I don't want to say that, like, having a character that does so many drugs and drinks so much alcohol that it totally obliterates your memory of yourself and the world around you. I don't want to say that's like a fundamentally good idea, but I do like what the game ends up doing with it over the course of the thing.
Yeah.
It at no point feels like a You could disagree with me. If you were to disagree with me, it would maybe be only for like the first hour.
I can't disagree till I try the game.
But for me, it did not feel like a tired trope at any point because the game is so nuts. Also, there's some potentially supernatural elements to the
supernatural.
Yeah, that's the term the game uses. It's slightly different than supernatural. I looked it up at the time. I cannot remember exactly what the differences are. I think supranatural is like unexplainable, supernatural seeming events, and versus supernatural, which is like magic and shit. So it's like it could be magic, but it could just be something that we don't understand.
It seems kind of like you're saying. It seems like magic, but magic's not real, so it has to be something real, but we don't know what that something is.
But it also could be magic. Who knows? I guess the thing is, like, you start off the game in such a deep hole that it is slightly believable that if you go and be a big fascist, that things would not work for you, especially because you're in a town run by basically a socialist mob. You're run by a union that is preparing to they're in the midst of what is portrayed as a violent strike against their company. So I don't feel super great about the letting you be a fascist thing. But the thing that I do think about it is that at least I know where the game stands, and it is not with the fascists at all. As far as I can tell, the ideology of the game is like somewhere around like a non-partisan communist, because they don't seem to like the communists either, but it seems like the reason that they don't like the communists is because they're too partisan. It's tough. It's a lot. The game is a lot to swallow. There's a lot of things going on. I did end up really liking it. I really liked it.
I heard that from you.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about it again once I've played it.
I think so too. I don't want to say anything more really about it.
I need to be done with this podcast.
You don't want to go through a couple of your... Do you want to pick a couple best hits from your...
No, I had one more thing I wanted to say just because I alluded to it earlier and never got back to it. Like, I literally, feel physically uncomfortable sitting here. Like, I need to get up and walk around and stuff.
All right. Are you ending it, or are you walking
We're ending it.
Okay.
And then,
we're going to do...
And then videos
We're going to do Shenmue, yeah.
Let's plays.
All right, I'm going to keep the stream up.
Wait. I got my one more thing.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I thought the one more thing was saying that we're done.
That's not what one more thing is.
One more thing. Gotta go.
No. I was saying earlier, I pre-ordered a game, but when I pre-order a game, it's not... what?
I said, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I pre-ordered a game. That's just when I want... If I have the money for something that isn't out yet, and I want to pay for the game so that I can't accidentally spend that money on something else before the game comes out. The only good reason to pre-order something. What I pre-ordered was Pokemon Shield. And the thing about Pokemon is that...
Oh, you picked Shield.
I picked Shield. That's my Pokemon thing, was that the first couple versions of Pokemon, I wanted the popular version, but I ended up getting the other one that I didn't want, and then I just assumed that as part of my Pokemon identity, and now I intentionally pick the less popular one. And it's actually surprisingly easy to pick which one's going to be less popular.
Yeah, it is really easy. I tend to always want the popular one, I think.
Well, I guess that just says something about you.
Well, I'm just so
very interesting and eccentric.
I don't wait until it's the popular one to decide that's the one I want. Pokemon should do a better job of making two games that have... Can you not have two legendaries that are both wantable?
Right.
At the same time?
Right.
Though here's my track record, though.
But then the less wantable legendary always grows on me a bit. You know, like that shield dog.
Yeah,
he looked kind of stupid, but now I'm like, yeah.
I was more positive on the shield dog than I think most people. But hold on. Let me go. Actually, for Red and Blue, what was more popular?
I believe
Red. I was Red.
I mean, I think
the most even split in Pokemon history, probably.
Probably. I had blue. I had wanted red because it had Charizard, and Charizard was dope. But you know what? Blastoise's fucking dope as hell.
Yeah. Venusaur, underrated.
I heard, yes. I heard later some people say that their perception was that blue was more popular. So I don't know which was which, but I feel like of my friend group, people wanted red the most.
My perception was that blue is more popular.
Yeah. So I wanted red, I got blue. I wanted silver, I got gold. And then I wanted sapphire, and I got ruby.
I think Ruby was gold the less popular one?
Ho-Oh fucking sucks.
I had gold, so I guess
fucking
for the
dipshit.
first two...
No, you had silver.
What's that?
You had silver.
I had gold.
What?
I had both, but I had gold first.
How dare you?
Sorry.
That's not what I remember. And my memory of like the couple times I saw your Pokemon version totally overwrites your memory of the entire time you played it.
Oh, sorry. Well, I guess I had silver.
Yeah, you had silver.
So I had red and gold, which I guess maybe were the lesser popular ones, and then I had ruby.
Yeah.
I don't know where that falls. You seem to be the pro at this.
That's the one. I always kind of assumed that ruby was more popular just because what's his face seemed pretty, like the crazy red dinosaur guy seemed cooler than the blue whale thing.
Yeah.
So that's the one. I didn't have a choice over which one I got in that one. So I think so I ended up with ruby. I think that's the one more popular version that I had.
Then I had diamond.
Yeah, so that was when I intentionally picked pearl because I was like, everyone's gonna go for diamond.
And what was next? Is that black and white is next?
Black, white. Yeah, I skipped those. I would have gotten white though because I would have assumed that black is what everyone wanted.
I think you had
black.
I think I had white. I can't remember. I literally can't remember. Those games were the worst Pokemon games.
Dang.
I had what came next besides black? So that was Sun.
Yeah, then black 2, white 2, and then X and Y.
X and Y. I had the deer. Which one was the deer?
X.
Obviously, that was the favorite.
So I picked Y.
Why don't you just pick the one you want?
Because I don't
want the worst one.
Well, but it's also technically. Not that I'm a person that cares about getting all the Pokemon, but it's technically a good strategy for getting all Pokemon because then you have all the people in the world to trade with.
Smart.
So that's part of it. It's kind of like I want to have the one that other people don't have for that reason. But also, it's kind of a toss-up anyways. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and then Sun, duh.
I went with Moon.
And then Sword.
Yeah. And... the Moon had the added thing of having the reverse clock. I don't know if you know about that. It seemed like some people didn't know that.
It's nighttime during the day?
Yeah. Because it just feels like I'm normally playing Pokemon at night. And so when it has the real-time clock, I'm always playing at night, and it sucks. So that's why, I think when I played Heart Gold, I intentionally, set the time to AM when it was actually PM, so I had it reversed. But then Moon just has that by default. So that's fun.
That works.
Yeah, so I got Shield, and the thing was, I've played a little bit of almost every generation except Black and White and Black 2 and White 2, and every one I've just felt less and less invested and played it for a shorter amount of time each time. I played Moon for, seriously an hour or something. But the most fun I had by far with Pokemon, since Pokemon came out, or since Generation 2 maybe.
You gonna do a Nuzlocke?
Was Nuzlocke. Doing a Pokemon Shield Nuzlocke from
right
the
off the bat,
jump,
from the
baby.
jump.
From the jump. Because I was thinking about that with Moon, and it just seemed too crazy. You gotta play it for real the first time. And then I realized, I haven't been having fun playing it for real. So I just play it the way that I think is fun.
Maybe I should do that.
So now I am super excited. I went from worrying about Pokemon like I was going to feel compelled to pay $60 for a game that I then didn't enjoy at all, homework I had to pay for, and now I can't wait for it to come out.
Maybe I should do that.
Do it. It's good. So that's it.
That's it. That's the Run Button podcast.
That's the Run Button podcast.
4 hours of that. 4 hours.
The Run Button podcast delivers.
Yeah. That makes up for, pick a month where you wanted one of these and you didn't get it. This makes up for that.
Yeah, it's like a half-hour podcast every 2 weeks we could have put out.
Yeah. I can't remember if I said this on mic or before we started recording, but the Run Button Podcast is the best video game podcast in the world.
Dang.
And what we lack in...
anything?
In access to codes and developer interviews and press materials and events, we make up for in... What did I say we make up with it for? Something good.
We make it... we make up for it with talking about whatever we want? I believe I nailed the cadence that you used for that.
Oh, I remember because I was listing them out on one hand, and then I listed out talking about whatever we want on the other hand.
I didn't see
as if
that.
it was 4 different things.
I did not see that.
All right, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
You trying to plug something right now?
I don't know. Is there anything?
Friends of the Table starting a new season. You can listen to that.
Dabble's coming out soon. My new podcast, pop culture discussion. Watch. We watch things. We talk about them.
Pop culture discussion. Watch.
Monster Rancher, and then Evangelion. The first 2 episodes.
Evangelion.
Evangelion. It's gonna be a podcast with a special guest, Evangelion. It's gonna come talk about
For
it.
a long time, I knew what Evangelion was, but I'd never heard anybody say it. So I thought that it rhymed with I thought that you said it with the cadence of Spanish explorer Ponce de Leon.
Evangelion.
Yeah,
I always thought it was Evangelion, just because evangelical. Evangelion, evangelical.
I thought Ponce de Leon, Evangelion, like that.
Kings of Leon. And don't we all need somebody? What was the want? Need.
Sex is on fire. Bye.
Wait, no. What was the song?
That one.
Yeah.
Use somebody.
Use something.
Use
God
somebody.
damn it! I wasn't even close. Fuck.
It was still configured for voice meter.
Bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum ba bum bum ba.
They call me Dr. Worm. Good morning, how are you? I'm Dr. Worm. I'm interested in things. I'm not a real doctor, but I am a real worm. I am an actual worm. I live like a worm. I like to play the drums. That is
I
a
think I'm
phenomenal
getting
song.
good. It's such a
It's so good.
weird.
It's one of the all-time best songs.
I think I'm getting good, but I can handle criticism.
I'll show you what I know, and you can tell me if you think I'm getting better on the drums. I'll leave the door unlocked 'cause I can't hear the doorbell. Bump, bump, ba-da, bump, bump, ba-da, ba. Honestly, one of my all-time favorite lyrics in any song is I'm not a real doctor, but I am a real worm. I'm interested in things.
I find something
Okay, we're live.
I find something like oddly sweet and touching about the you can come over and tell me if you think I'm getting better on the drums. I've always read that as romantic somehow. Like, aw, come over and tell him if you think he's getting better on the drums.
I've never read it as romantic, but I have read it as a very meaningful friendship.
Oh, so you're just like a historian.